Call of Duty Zombies has been a staple of the gaming industry since its conception. It was well known all throughout for its terrifying atmosphere, iconic map design, and one-of-a-kind gameplay. There really was nowhere else you can get anything quite like it. Tons of people have grown up with this incredible game mode, including myself, through its many iterations over the years. From a small bunker in the middle of nowhere, all the way to the moon and back. Through time and space, it's safe to say things never got dull. Every single map evolved the mode and did something to change things up. There were tons of hidden Easter eggs throughout, and such a wide variety of enemies unique to every map, like the iconic Hellhound, Space Monkeys, and other worldly horrors. Every single map might as well have been its own game. You couldn't get mechanics like the fog, bus, or exploration in any map besides transit, or the afterlife to explore Alcatraz in Mob of the Dead. The base game would remain mostly the same: shoot zombies, survive rounds that get harder and harder, but Treyarch Studios went above and beyond to give more than enough reasons to play every single map in the series. Now, why do I tell you all of this? Because Black Ops 6 forgot everything that made maps special. You see, the game has changed a lot since Call of Duty's Fortnite copy Warzone was released, and it blew up, but not in the right way. It was more popular than almost any game in the world for a good while, so it made sense for Activision to optimize their games for an audience that liked that sort of thing. It was the #1 moneymaker for the company, so what did they do? Well, remember how COD Zombies used to look like this? Now it looks like this. For the past 4 years leading up to BO6, Call of Duty Zombies has had a very rough time in terms of fan reception. They did try some new things and take some risks, like open world and revamping the systems, but it all began to look more and more like Warzone. The unique counterculture that the Zombies mode had created was soon replaced by a more homogeneous blob. It's a combination of certain strange gameplay decisions mixed with uninspired map design that really sunk a hole into BO6's potential. We're going to start out by getting into the gameplay mechanics of BO6 Zombies. This game is a continuation of a lot of mechanics that were introduced in the game before it. What that means is we have stuff like weapon rarity, loadouts, and armor returning. Weapon rarity works just like it does in Fortnite, where higher tiers do more damage. Zombies, when killed, now drop stuff like grenades and this thing called salvage, which is the currency used to upgrade your gun's rarity and make stuff at the crafting table. However, if you don't want to upgrade your gun's rarity, you can just buy guns off the wall or use the mystery box to try and gamble for something higher rarity. All of these mechanics are supposed to blend together and incentivize using the mystery box and buying stuff off the wall to save resources used to upgrade your guns. But why use points when you can just spawn with whatever gun you want? Why not spawn with the most busted weapon possible? This completely discourages you from spending hard-earned points from killing zombies in favor of using salvage for the gun you spawned in with, and then upgrading that. This is exactly the reason why we started with the M1911 back in the day. It encouraged you to interact with the game's systems. This is especially bad because the point system, which used to be based off of doing damage to zombies and kills, is now just completely based off kills. All of this because a dev got bullied one time in a public lobby. Yes, this was a real event, and it makes the game all the worse for it. The point grind is just dragged out for no good reason, and purchasing anything feels like it takes forever to achieve. They didn't have to replicate real life this accurately. Now, for something I really do like in BO6 is the perk system. It might be my favorite iteration out of all of the games. No longer are we limited to just 4 perks. Now is the age of 5 perks. Just kidding, there's actually no perk limit anymore. There's also a machine that spawns at around 25 on every map that holds every perk that was added throughout the game's lifecycle. This would be really cool, however, there's no unique identity to any map because there's no exclusive perks anywhere. And speaking of lost identity, we can buy armor off the wall that is completely identical to what they have in Warzone. You have to manually replay it and everything. I wouldn't really find it that annoying if it was just simply that. However, they balanced the entire game around it to the point where it's frustrating and so questionable. You can try playing without the armor, but once you get past the 20s, the struggle will really start to set in because of how insane they've made the enemies. Players have gained omni movement and vaulting, but so did the zombies. They will literally do parkour and climb over everything just to get at the player. The devs fed so much coke to the zombies that their damage will actually increase at certain round milestones, making them even more dangerous than they've ever been before. You can literally die in 2 hits without armor once you get past the 60s. Unforgiving close quarters and slow point gain make it very easy to get snowballed as you try to reclaim all your lost perks while trying to keep up with pack-a-punch levels. The counterbalance to the difficulty increase later on is the score streak system. These take power-ups like literal ballistic missiles, mortar strikes, and chopper gunners from the multiplayer mode, and plop them straight into zombies for the small cost of a fifth of your bank account. Or I guess salvage. At the crafting bench, you can exchange that salvage for any number of these immersion-breaking abilities that can practically prevent certain death with a literal press of a button. In that list of abilities is my new least favorite power in Zombies history, the Mutant Injection. After crafting it and using it, you are literally invincible for 30 seconds and you instantly kill anything you touch. There is no downside to turning into a mangler. Save up enough salvage and you can spam your way through anything. And it's so busted, and it makes high rounds look identical on every map because of how easy it is to do and how difficult any other strategy is. It's completely ridiculous, and I really hope they consider rebalancing everything in the next game. And once again, back to how this affects the core identity of every map. If I can call in a chopper gunner from multiplayer or mutant inject myself on every map in BO6 without any change, it gets boring. No matter where you go in the game, the crafting bench stays the same. In the older games, there was equipment that was unique to certain maps. Think of the Gersh device on Moon or the Matryoshka dolls on Ascension. We don't have anything remotely like that in BO6 except for one particular little thing that we'll get into later on. Multiplayer elements like these, invading the zombie space, dissolves some of the identity that separated the two modes apart. We already had a nearly identical HUD to multiplayer, but shoving features like this into the game really rubs salt in the wound. And there's yet another layer to this already controversial release that will really hurt it in the long run. Black Ops 6 Zombies is always online. Even in single player matches, you cannot play BO6 offline. This stupid decision resulted in a 15-minute timer to the pause menu, even in solo, because you're technically running on their servers. And no, that timer does not reset. It is cumulative, meaning if you have to leave for some sort of emergency or blowing up the bathroom mid-game, your game will quit. And in co-op, it will not let you server pause anymore. They also do a lot of the visual work in the game by streaming high-resolution textures from their servers to you, which theoretically would make the game look better, but this leads to a lot of weird problems that the older games didn't have. Sometimes you'll get lag in single player from the connection, and textures will load slowly upon entering a map, making your starts more ugly instead of just loading all of the textures in the loading screen. That's kind of why it's supposed to be there. They introduced a lot of problems that we didn't used to have because someone higher up decided everything needs to be based off of their servers all the time. Unfortunately, with all of those terms and conditions, we had one of the best features ever added to Zombies, Save and Quit, which is exclusive to single player. This is a really nice addition for people that don't have 4 hours straight to play the game. It's made insane rounds like 999 actually possible if you want to spend that much time in a single match. You can just save and quit and come back another day. This being said, it still does not excuse the pause timer in co-op and single player, or the always online requirement for this game. One day, the game servers will shut off, making it just a relic of internet history instead of something that you can still experience. You can play any of the older COD games in the series offline with no problems, so why not this one too? With all of that being said, the other half of what makes a Zombies game is the map variety. Iconic map design and addictive gameplay are what make players come back to older games for years to come, or in BO6's case, until the servers are shut down. Let's dig into the meat of each of the 6 maps in this game and give BO6 a fair shake. The first map that was revealed to us was Terminus, a map set on a desolate prison island in the Pacific 6 years after the Cold War zombie story ended. Gregory Weaver, Major Carver, Dr. Gray, Dr. Strauss, and even our goat Raptor 1 have been imprisoned since they were betrayed by Richthofen at the end of the Cold War storyline. They had saved the world from a Dark Ether invasion, and this is how they were repaid. For anybody outside of the loop, this isn't old Richthofen, it's Eddie from the ending of Tag der Toten. It's way too complicated to get into right now. Anyways, they are broken out of their cells by Dr. Peck, one of the main antagonists from the previous game, and a new mysterious character named Maya, who agreed to come with Peck as a means to find her lost brother Nathan. Despite the crew's feelings about Dr. Peck, they unite because of their common hatred for Richthofen. They set off on their quest to find revenge, but before they can get very far, an outbreak occurs on the island, and they soon find themselves fighting for escape.
The guard station computer cannot access the central database while the network is down.
As soon as you load into the map, you'll be greeted by zombies attacking the prison guards in front of you, and the voices of your crewmates on the radio. Zombies will start flooding the area as you activate the Ethereum power station to turn on the power. They'll be trying to destroy it, but if you can defend it for long enough, power will be restored to this area of the island, and we can start exploring Terminus. As soon as you walk out, the wind and rain at night make for a great moody atmosphere. Occasionally, you'll come across survivors of the outbreak, and they'll either get overwhelmed by zombies, or they will kill the surrounding zombies and try and shoot you, until they get abducted by Dark Ether Diddy.
Ain't no party like a Diddy party.
It's completely random whether or not you'll encounter these people at all, and in some places you'll randomly encounter zombies stuck in the environment or waiting for you behind doors. This addition is on every map and helps make the environment feel a little bit more alive the first time you enter a room. As players make their way through the map, your characters will actually have some conversations as we go along, as long as you picked one of the main crew to play as instead of a random operator.
Took me a decade to get over Nam. God knows how long it'll take to wash off this place.
This underrated feature adds just a bit of depth to the story and a little bit of agency for your character too, something that was sorely missed in Cold War Zombies. However, we still do have agents talking to us with this annoying pop-up every time they talk in every single map, which is completely unnecessary and just takes up screen space. We should just have their voices be heard over the intercom or radio or something like they did in BO3. I thought that was a lot more immersive. Or we could just have more of those conversations be focused on our characters. Having the conversations be more in the map itself makes it feel even more alive than if it was Dr. Peck.png staring into my soul half the time that I'm playing. After we power up the second Ethereum generator by Jug, we'll pass this giant anti-air gun, which is actually a black hole trap. This thing, when activated, will light up with a bright purple light sucking everything into it, including you if you get too close to it. There's also these tentacle traps around the map that you'll find in doorways, and they will eat almost anything that walks through them when you activate it. At this point, the game will direct you to going underground, where the final Ethereum generator is. You can either enter from the mines or the overgrown cave. In the mines, we have the glorious return of PhD Flopper. In the other cave entrance, it's going to be more mossy and overgrown with a classic speed cola. You can also find a shovel to access dig spots around here for extra salvage or grenades. Once you make your way through one of these tunnels, you'll find yourself in this huge underground lab full of experiments and test tubes and zombies trapped in cages. Sometimes a zombie can break out of its test tube and attack the player. After one more final defense, the entire island will now have power and Pack-a-Punch will be accessible on this lift that occasionally moves. Down here, we can upgrade our guns and get a look at the first new perk in BO6. Melee Macchiato. This perk turns your melee attack into this goofy punch from Origins and increases all melee damage. This includes your dedicated melee weapon, making for some hilarious builds where you can almost forever one-shot zombies once you Pack-a-Punch and upgrade the rarity of it. Beyond that, it's not a particularly useful perk in a typical game besides memeing or in the Citadel map that we'll talk about later.
Tear them to pieces.
After a few more rounds pass, you'll probably encounter the special round. A green mist will roll in, signifying a parasite round. These big orange bugs will start flying in all over the place and give players a true taste of what it's like in Southeast Asia. They're practically identical to the ones that you'd find in Shadows of Evil. They'll fly around and shoot at you on occasion. At the end of these rounds, it follows the tradition of giving the player a max ammo at the end. After the first parasite round, you'll start to find them spawning alongside the normal zombies. Following with them is the new vermin enemy, which is this freaky facehugger type of monster that lunges at you, dealing high damage. Be prepared to see a ton of these guys as you play the map, because they, along with the parasites and regular zombie, are the majority of what you're going to be seeing on Terminus. But there are two more special enemies that you will encounter throughout your gameplay. For those of you that played BO3 or Cold War Zombies, you'll probably remember the Mangler enemy. They return with their heavy armor and arm cannon. They spawn in the teens and more frequently as rounds get higher, making open areas incredibly dangerous. It's satisfying to take them down, and they're enough of a threat that you have to deal with it. If you leave their numbers unchecked, they will absolutely roll you. And then we have the final enemy type on this already packed roster, the Amalgam. A monster made of flesh fused together from many bodies, with many heads and arms sticking out of it. This thing is a tank, and will be your #1 priority to kill. It will run after you and eat other zombies to heal itself. Then, for its most powerful attack, it will use its tongue to grab you and take a huge chomp out of your balls. This one can be a game ender if it spits you out into a crowd of zombies. Getting close is almost certain death if your armor's broken. If you can kill it, it will explode into a red mist, leaving nothing but a pile of flesh and blood. Terminus has quite a lot of enemy types, but they don't clash too hard with each other and fit the setting pretty well. It's got the whole man versus nature thing going on, the biological experiments of the island reflected in the amalgam and vermin's designs, as well as the unruly nature of the islands with parasites clashing with the military base. Some people don't like the enemy variety, but I think it's important for the character of this map. If we had just normal zombies in Terminus, it would be pretty boring and way too easy with all the wide open spaces. A lot of the design elements complement each other with the gameplay of this map. Defeating a lot of the stronger enemies can reward you with armory keys, which can take you up to this room by stamina, and you can go inside for a little breather from the zombies, as well as giving you random rewards based on how good the key is. It could be anything from just a couple grenades to an extra perk, and sometimes even a ray gun. This island itself is a pretty good size, but the map is actually a lot bigger than just this. You can either swim or take a boat to any location that you see from the main island, from the smaller islands all the way to this giant crashed ship. There's something incredible about just jumping in the water and swimming to another island, being totally alone in the rainy wilderness with the undead chasing after you. This is so cool, and one of the main things that makes this map super unique compared to anything that we've ever had before it. Sailing around in the water is so much fun. Just island hopping, going from place to place. The freedom of exploration that comes with this, and also the Omni movement, being able to vault over railings and such, it feels great. Don't think that being in the water will completely break the balance of the game. Sure, you can get away from the zombies for a bit, but they'll start throwing bits of their flesh at you if you're near the shore. And if you stay in the water for too long, you get just a minute of peace until you're forced out by the formidable gas of relentless chase. This will force you to go onto the land and have to engage with the zombies. Terminus gets a lot of points for the environment and having a real feeling of exploration, even if some of the extra places themselves are kind of bare bones. I like having the option to go to anything that I see here. They took huge advantage of the movement system with so many areas to jump up and down from at any time. I think the environment on this map is gorgeous and something that I really love, but if you're playing with the default HUD in BO6, you can't really take your time to appreciate anything because you have so much stuff blocking your view. It's so noisy and it makes it so hard to appreciate the visual design of this map. All of the hard work that the developers put into it, by default, you can barely see it. I am so glad there is HUD customization in this game. I prefer a more minimalistic and immersive look. I wish we had even more options to fine-tune every single element, like these pop-ups on the side of the screen that we always get. So far, Terminus does a lot right, and if I'm gonna be honest, I wish I could say the same about the rest of the maps in this game, because things don't quite stay at the same level of quality. Now that we've become accustomed to Terminus, there are still a few more things that you can do while you're getting set up, like getting your upgrades and getting Pack-a-Punch and all that. One thing you can actually do is scavenge the water for crates containing salvage, or go to one of these machines every so often. This is a SAM trial. It'll give you a random challenge when activated, and the random rewards for completing it can vary from points and salvage to a random perk. On rare occasion, a Pack-a-Punch crystal. These are fun little challenges you can do to try and get yourself a bit of a head start. Once you've got enough salvage, you can begin work on the wonder weapon of this map, which is required to start the main Easter egg, the Beam Smasher.
That hurt? Good.
The quest itself is pretty straightforward and feels fun, taking you all across the facility and the surrounding islands. The first step is to equip Deadwire on your gun and to shoot these power boxes on the Pack-a-Punch lift. This opens up this death trap of a room.
Michael! Don't leave me here!
On this buildable table in the corner, we can see the unfinished wonder weapon. Killing the zombie that's trapped in there will give you a key that'll open up a briefcase in this room here, which will summon a swarm of vermin to attack you once you retrieve it. The next part would be to go to these 3 different laptops around the island, which together make up parts of a math equation, the answer for which we need to enter on this computer. If you're lazy, you can just cheat by paying Dr. Peck $5,000 to skip it if you're not into math. After a round has passed, we'll find ourselves chasing this anomaly on the map. We'll take our
multiphasic injector
and head down to this orb on this island. This will summon waves of zombies until you put their energy balls into this bigger ball in a pretty cool looking sequence by the water. Once you do this enough times, you'll be taken to 2 other islands where you rinse and repeat until the
multiphasic injector
is fully charged. I think they did a lot good with this quest. It makes you explore all of the islands around the map, and it's not that difficult to get all of the parts that you need for the Beam Smasher. Plus, this wonder weapon is fully original, and it's a cool looking one at that. This thing has 2 firing modes that work together, giving this thing power and utility. The primary fire is a continuous beam with decent headshot damage, but the real magic happens when you lead with the alternate fire. This part will flap up and shoot a hypnotizing beam that will slow zombies down and increase the headshot damage they take for a short time. Using both of these modes in tandem is so satisfying. This thing definitely gets a thumbs up from me. In the main quest, you'll find yourself on a short journey to first find Maya's brother. The first part will be finding the hard drive so Peck can access the computers. This is done by carefully looking under all of the tentacle traps and finding the one that has this red keycard underneath it. Turn it on and shoot it with the Beam Smasher and out will come the hard drive. Give this to Peck and he can open up the viewport in the container that's holding Nathan. To unlock it and free him, we need to find a code. There is a radio around here that'll give a hint as to where the locations are for the code. Putting it all together, we can finally open up this container holding Nathan, but something is horribly wrong.
What the hell have they done to you?
This is how you do presentation for a new boss enemy. The container unveils Nathan as a mutated amalgam. We can see his head on the fleshy body. We're locked in the lab and we have no choice but to defeat him.
Back down! I don't want to do this!
After a surprisingly easy fight, a small cutscene will play. In this cutscene, Maya has to make the hard decision to put her brother down. This is a really strong character moment for her and gives motivation for her to continue traveling with our crew in the story. And it also gives her motivation to get revenge on the people that did this to him. Then, all of a sudden, Dr. Modi, the head researcher of Terminus Island, will come onto the screen to taunt our crew. She's also stolen Peck's nuclear Ethereum missiles from Cold War. Yes, this is as ridiculous as it sounds. And the cutscene ends. If you thought this was the end of the main quest, you are mistaken. So far, things have been really easy. There's not a lot in this quest that is going to really challenge you, and you're gonna see that continue until we get to the very end. I like the Nathan boss fight conceptually. I think it was very close to being something really cool, but it was missing just a little extra spice in order to make the fight something a bit more challenging than it was. It's all this build-up for a guy that's basically made of paper. Back to the main quest, the next part would be to dive under the water right where Nathan died and find this keycard. This will give us access to the underside of the cargo ship, where we can do a small lockdown to get these parts here. Real talk about the lockdown though, it's really cool initially. You're trapped in this little room, and there's all these crazy sounds with the boat creaking. It's really atmospheric and really cool, but in actuality, there's barely any zombies that come your way. You think you gotta set up to be able to survive this, but no. It's actually a lot harder to survive this room after the lockdown is over because the maximum amount of zombies will spawn, which is way higher than anything that the lockdown throws at you. It's weird how the difficulty scales like that. Anyways, there will be 2 wires around the island that look just like this that are missing a piece, which we have to fill in. Putting these node connectors in the right wires will give our crew contact with Sam, this mysterious AI modeled after Samantha Maxis. The crew is able to convince her to try and help us take down Dr. Modi, so she instructs Peck and Strauss to create a hacker device that can be used to redirect Modi's sub to the island. Taking the hacker from Peck, we head out to the sea where we start hacking the buoys. As you're hacking, parasites will try to attack you, but it's not really too difficult. I'd argue it's a little boring. Once we hack all 3, Dr. Modi will start the self-destruct sequence on the island. Alarms will start going off everywhere and a timer will appear on screen. You'll have to defuse all the parts of the bomb in the lab area while being chased by a ton of zombies. This step is difficult if you don't know what you're doing, but if you properly loop around, it's not too hard. The threat of your game ending definitely does add a lot of tension. Once all that is said and done, this door will open up and we can go say hi to Dr. Modi ourselves. But before we can do that, the tentacles we've seen in the water this whole time end up dragging her down and absorbing the purple ICBMs. This will mutate the creature into a giant kraken-like monster. Once the music sets in, there's no going back. You either have to kill this or it will kill you. This is not an easy boss fight unless you're really well prepared. Immediately, this sets the precedent that BO6 will have these insane boss fights at the end of most Easter eggs in that they won't be easy pushovers like the Orda from Cold War Zombies. This boss was a serious bullet sponge at launch and an impressive display of skill if you were able to take it down with its multiple phases and big sweeping attacks, all the while you're being chased by the monsters of the island. A bit of a sad thing about this fight is the fact that it was such an incredible challenge at launch, but it got power crept pretty hard at the end of the game's life cycle. With the right augments and all the perks, this fight is a cakewalk and is over in minutes. But without doing so, or bringing a bullet weapon that has fire damage, it is a very difficult task. Despite double tap completely ruining this boss fight, I would say that this is one of the best bosses in COD Zombies history. And the hope at this point is that the fights in the rest of the maps are going to be just as incredible as this one. Once our heroes defeat the Kraken, it takes us to the end cutscene where the Sam AI tells the crew of this relic that has the power to save the real Samantha, who was lost to the dark ether at the end of Cold War Zombies.
The Sentinel artifact.
Yes, that same one from the discontinued Chaos storyline. This merging of the storylines was definitely an interesting choice, but I can't exactly say I'm upset with it. Our crew was headed to the Sentinel artifact before Richthofen could get to it, and they could get their revenge on him. Not too bad of a setup, but the follow-up gets a bit more underwhelming as the story continues. Terminus does a great job at standing on its own 2 feet. It's got a cool wonder weapon, beautiful art design for the map, and the freedom of just exploring the islands in the boats makes for a great experience for a launch map. And a very, very unique one at that. Terminus is huge and benefits from a lot of advancements like vaulting. Movement feels great on this map, and the wide map design helps with the increased zombie count and the zombie speed on later rounds. The enemy variety doesn't feel overwhelming either since they nerfed the Mangler spawn rate. It looked like this at launch. This is certainly a solid map, and I would say goes into A tier for this game. But I will say, as the Easter egg has a lot of cool ideas, it doesn't feel like it develops them very thoroughly from a gameplay perspective. The Easter egg feels a bit too simple and a little too easy. This is the launch of the game, so it's perfectly fine to have an easy map as the first one, but if this trend continues to all of the maps, it's going to be a bit of a letdown and more similar to Cold War than we thought. There are some more positives I do want to point out before we move on to Liberty Falls. The enemy variety on this map is actually fantastic, and like I said earlier, everything works together to build the theme around this map. Exploring all these islands and such, you really do feel a sense of isolation. Well, at least after Peck and Strauss exhaust all their voice lines in the higher rounds. The boat on this map as well feels really fun. It doesn't feel super broken or like it's out of place here, but rather it complements the map really well. There's a lot of freedom with how you can approach Terminus, and I really like that. The hope would be that the remainder of the maps launched throughout the DLC cycle would be just as innovative as Terminus. This is one of the biggest maps released for zombies, and it's the first with a drivable vehicle and such open exploration, if we don't count transit for that part. So doing something as significant in future maps would be really cool if they develop on this idea. But before we get to the later DLC maps, we have to talk about Liberty Falls, the bonus map released alongside Terminus at launch. Following in the influence of Town, Liberty Falls exists as more of a small survival type of map, although there is an Easter egg on this map. The intro cutscene for Liberty Falls set a vibe unlike anything we had seen with the trailer before. I wish I could play the music without getting copyrighted, but it set vibes that reminded me a lot of BioShock. It was beautiful, and it sets up intrigue with the story. In this cutscene, we follow Richtofen, and he's having flashbacks about his family that seemingly had died in a fire somehow. Richtofen wakes up in a cold sweat, haunted by visions of his past. Already, with just seeing his backstory, this creates a lot of intrigue as to what happened to this universe's Richtofen. He's clearly been through a lot, and he's also the leader of this mysterious new organization, Project Janus. But he soon has an emergency contact from his organization. They've had a breach, and now zombies are breaking into the research facility. Richtofen straps up with the Wunderwaffe that's right by his bedside and goes out to confront the zombie threat. The action visuals of him fighting through his mansion are really cool. It would be a shame if they cut the cutscene budget and we stopped getting these halfway through the game, wouldn't it? And it set up this mysterious AI called Sam as the antagonist of the story. She uses the dark ether to somehow teleport Richtofen away. It's obvious she's going to be the antagonist for this game, but our crew from Terminus don't know that yet. If these vibes would continue into the game, we would be so sad. Since we had a dedicated crew for Terminus, surely this would be awesome. We don't know what happened to Richtofen at the end because he vanished, but maybe we could play as him in this map, and maybe we could play as some of the agents in his house. Yeah, let's address the early Liberty Falls controversy. So first of all, you see 0% of the map in this intro cutscene. It's more like a distant event that kind of affects the map. The crew you play as well does not matter. Instead of playing as Richtofen or something cool like that, you just play as random operators in this map because there is no canon crew. Your characters in this have zero weight whatsoever. Another aspect to the controversy was the early gameplay they showed at the COD Next event. This was about a month before launch where they had a bunch of streamers come out and try out the game. Yeah, people didn't like what they saw. The zombie community rallied online with a gigantic hate train, and they complained that the game looked way too easy, it was boring, and that the map had, in quotes, no aura. All of the atmosphere created by the trailer was thrown out the window with something completely different. We haven't even officially had the game yet, but people were furious. There wasn't even much discussion around the Terminus trailers before launch because of how bad Liberty Falls was perceived by the fans. Treyarch addressed some of the feedback for launch because of how outspoken people were. They made slight changes to the lighting, but more importantly, they adjusted the difficulty to be much harder than what was shown. The fact how some streamers at this event that only play multiplayer could get to round 50 with no problem was actually insane. Zombies were slow and there was barely any threat to the player, and the special enemies didn't really impact the gameplay at all either. The discourse around the visuals of the map were also very on point. It is a small American town right after the zombie outbreak had started, and it 100% fits with the theme. Reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead or games similar to that. But the thing is, when throughout the history of zombies we've had very ambitious and artistically diverse maps, this one falls completely short. Look at some of the launch maps we've had in zombie history. Town in BO2, which is parallel to the idea of Liberty Falls, has a lot more unique art direction. A term I've heard said a lot about the zombies game mode is counterculture. Zombies as a mode is counter to anything the rest of Call of Duty has to offer in terms of unique gameplay and art direction. When you look at Liberty Falls, it's hard to tell right away that this is a zombies map. Look at Town or Shadows of Evil. There is no doubt that these are from the zombies mode and it is completely separate from the multiplayer. Zombies has always differentiated itself very heavily from the regular COD formula. When the community in the live chat was asking, is this zombies or multiplayer? That is not a good sign. There was a real lack of ambition with the setting and art direction of this map. They could have done something more interesting with a different time of day or intense weather or more interesting lighting, but there's no other way to put it than Liberty Falls is just bland. Ironically though, Liberty Falls was the most popular map in BO6 according to Treyarch. In fact, according to some people, the game director had said that Liberty Falls is one of the most played zombies maps of all time. It drew in tons of people that weren't very interested in zombies in the first place. And directed mode certainly did numbers for this as well. A very surprising twist to the story. But of course, the visuals are only half of the equation when it comes to a map. Why exactly was Liberty Falls so popular? And is there something of value in this map that maybe Terminus can't offer? It's time to jump into Blanchard's big manly open arms and dig into the map's gameplay.
Welcome to Liberty Falls. Population? Well, less than yesterday.
You'll get dropped off via helicopter onto this gas station rooftop where you can get a really good view of the town. Fires are broken out everywhere, zombies are trapped in or under crushed cars, and there's some smoke rising into the sky. This town has been completely overrun and there's nobody left. There's destroyed military cars from Project Janus's attempt at containing the outbreak, but they failed. Some ambient sounds you can hear are distant screams of survivors, barking dogs trapped somewhere in the houses, and also loudspeaker announcements of evacuation notices, but they are much too late. There's also a couple isolated dark ether storms in the street and the cemetery. As you make your way around town, Blanchard will keep you updated on your tasks, with number 1 being to investigate the church at the top of the hill. From spawn, there are 2 different routes you can take to get there. The first route takes you through the streets of the main town and some back alleys. Over there is the comic shop containing Quick Revive. In this room is a statue of the comic hero Etherella that acts as a cool laser beam trap when activated. The other route from spawn is through the motel alleyway, leading to the Liberty Lanes bowling alley and Stamina Up. In the middle of the map is a bank that connects both sides to each other, and it has Juggernog inside. In this bank, there is a vault that can be accessed if you find the code parts scattered around the map. This easy side quest will unlock the loot room, where you can exchange loot keys dropped by strong enemies for free goodies, just like Terminus, and it'll give you a small breather before you are kicked back out into the bloodthirsty streets. Following back on either route will take you higher up the hill. Now we arrive at the church, which has been corrupted by the other dimension. Entering the Stranger Things-esque portal will reveal the Pack-a-Punch machine sitting at the back, as well as this incredible view at the sky above. This is a really cool aesthetic, and I wish that more of Liberty Falls was maybe corrupted by this dark ether. The final map feature of note is the ziplines, which you can find scattered all throughout Liberty Falls. These make maneuvering this already small map a lot quicker and a lot more fluid. There's also a ton of hills, so PhD Flopper benefits a lot from this. Once again, we have special rounds in Liberty Falls. With the green fog comes vermin. The exact same ones from Terminus. To accompany the return of vermin, we also have manglers coming back. That makes 2 maps now that feature manglers and 2 that feature vermin in BO6. They work the exact same way as they do in Terminus, so there's no need to reiterate. There is one last enemy type you'll find in the streets of Liberty Falls: Abominations. They are a returning enemy type from the Forsaken in Cold War. These guys are chunky 3-headed beasts. Just like the Margwa, its 3 heads will alternate between being open and closed. These guys barely take any damage to the body, but if you do enough damage to their open heads, you'll be able to pop them one by one. It's also possible to throw grenades into their mouth to make them explode faster. Both Abominations and Manglers are weak to fire damage, so if you equip Napalm Breath... What did I just say? Both Abominations and Manglers are weak to fire damage, so if you equip Napalm Burst or Brain Rot for just the Abomination, you get a damage boost to help kill them faster. Liberty Falls does have a surprising amount of enemies that you can fight, and a really easy to traverse layout. Since the Mangler nerf of 87, it's been a lot better, despite the frustrations of reusing all the enemy variants on this map. Liberty Falls does also have a lot of side quests, like the hidden bowling minigame, a Deadshot sharpshooter challenge, raining zombies, dancing zombies, Etherella's statue transformation, and the vending machine of infinite possibilities. The simplistic nature of this map makes it really fun for just jumping in and casually playing zombies. That's why it was the #1 zombies map during this game's life cycle. It's just really easy to pick up and play, something that was a really treasured quality back in the older days of zombies. I don't think that's something we can really neglect. It's fun having a ton of big and complex maps, but without something simpler to balance it out, a lot of the player base will actually get left behind. Not everybody wants to play a giant Shadows of Evil every time they play zombies. Sometimes they want to hop into just a small Kino der Toten type of map and just kill zombies and have a good time. That's what I think Liberty Falls excels at. Although I definitely do wish that this map had a little bit more to say visually. A couple more things about Liberty Falls: the fact how this map has a really fun wonder weapon, and it also has a full main quest, specifically made for beginners. Liberty Falls didn't exactly need an Easter egg quest, but it's more like a cherry on top that actually helps elevate this map to the next level. The church has a big machine that, when interacted with, will start a small in-game cutscene where a man trapped in here, Dr. Panos, is requesting our help in escaping. Blanchard agrees and sends us to repair his machine with parts scattered around the map, but to get started, players will have to visit this little room at the motel and spawn. Upon approach, a ton of zombies will flood out the door. Little encounters like this, I think, give a lot of character to moments like this. Once it's safe, you'll discover something that is sitting on a workbench that looks awfully familiar to the old players. We're on a quest to build the jet gun. Yes, that same one from Transit. The absolute worst wonder weapon of all time managed to get a second chance at life, and man, they delivered. Thankfully as well, the process to get it in Liberty Falls takes not even a quarter of the time it takes to build it in Transit. The first part is a water valve located in the front of a flower shop by Speed Cola. Using this, you can place the water valve in this box to increase the pressure. Zombies will continuously spawn until you turn the valve enough. This step can be a good challenge with how crowded the bowling alley gets. Once the pressure is high enough, the pressure gauge will fly out and is ready to be picked up. Next part is the handbrake. A certain farmer zombie will sometimes spawn in the cemetery doing a lap. Killing him will not only make Blanchard depressed, but also give you the key to unlocking the shed with the part. The last part requires a Mangler cannon to retrieve. You can get this easily by shooting the arm off of a Mangler when it spawns in. This can be used to blast the door off of the movie shop. This area will now be accessible, and one of the dirt piles will have the wire inside. All that is left is to put the pieces together. And with that, the jet gun is back and better than ever. The quest to get it is simple, and you won't have to run in the fog for an hour straight just to get it. You can also just get the jet gun out of the box if you really don't want to build it, which can be said about every wonder weapon in this game. I much prefer this over whatever Transit was trying to do with the jet gun. It's really simple to get set up on Liberty Falls, and that is the entire point of it. This giant jet engine will suck up everything around you, from zombies to power-ups and armor plates and salvage. This thing will turn zombies into red mist, and it has infinite ammo. All it has is a cooldown after continuous use. You can also consume all of the charge to detonate it like a mini nuke to kill almost everything around you. Yeah, this thing is awesome and way overpowered. It's so funny watching the vermin turn into a little ball as they get propelled towards the engine. Pack-a-punching it makes the jet gun recharge a little bit quicker at every level to keep the sucking action going for longer. The only two weaknesses this thing has is downtime in between sucking if they keep coming, and effectiveness against special enemies. With proper trigger management, however, you can go for a long time without overheating. The rest of the Easter egg is really simple and straightforward, so I'll try and make it quick. After we get the jet gun, we have to suck up 3 different parts around the map. Then, after ziplining to the bank roof, you can build the LTG, a device that when placed under dark ether storms will start a defense step. Manglers and zombies will attack in all directions, trying to stop it from activating. This step normally would be a challenge, but proper jet gun management makes it really easy and straightforward to do. If you manage to defend it, a beefed up version of either the Mangler or the Abomination will spawn in. You'll have to kill it, but in a really particular way. Scattered around the map are these ether field traps, down the street from the cemetery or by the gas station. You have to kill it while it's inside of an active trap and by one of these canisters. If you have health bars turned off like me, it can seem a little tricky, but you do get a voice line from Blanchard when they are low in health, if you're really careful. You have to deposit it into the church machine in time to complete it. The second canister is a little different because it's locked up here in spawn. To get it, you have to use this Strauss counter that will be given at the machine when you put the first one in. All you have to do is enter the opposite reading from the counter in all 3 of these machines, and bam, it'll be unlocked. Once again, rinse and repeat with the other storm, and that is the entire Easter egg, minus the final encounter, which we'll talk about in a minute. As you can tell, this one is really easy and straightforward to do. I do like how casual Liberty Falls is and the fact that you can probably beat the Easter egg without looking at a guide for too long. After you deposit the second canister into the machine, you're able to start the final step. Dr. Panos' machine will lock you in the church and you have to kill things in order to charge it with souls. It starts off slow, but as the music speeds up, so do the zombies. Manglers will spawn in, and even one of the stronger red variants will spawn partway through. Defeating this one will start the next phase where you will get a max ammo, and super sprinters will start appearing. As the music gets faster, a red abomination will spawn in as the final challenge, and it has a huge health pool. This combined with a small space to run around and almost complete lack of cover can make regenerating your health challenging at times. If you manage to kill the abomination, a shockwave will go out and you'll go down. This begins our end cutscene. Dr. Panos comes down to diddle himself out of the dark ether and trap us inside, sealing the fate of our operator. At this point, it's unknown what Panos plans to do, but it's almost certain that he'll return later in the story, and so he leaves with our operator trapped inside of the church.
Bye-bye, dark ether.
I would say for what's supposed to be a casual map, the Easter egg on this is pretty fun. The speedruns for this have been absolutely ridiculous as well. After beating the Easter egg, you have a choice of either ending your game here or continuing playing, and it'll give you a nice set of rewards like a free perkaholic, ray gun, free pack-a-punch tier 3 levels, legendary tool upgrades, and a bunch of random guns, and some points. A nice way to round out an easy map. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is in-game Easter egg rewards like this are the exact same in every map, and each map's completion will give a skin out for one of the crew members. Liberty Falls was the target of criticism before launch, but managed to prove itself, at least statistically speaking. This unambitious experience achieves exactly what it sets out to do. It serves the same purpose as any other similar map where you just log in and you just kill zombies. But it does feel like Treyarch did the bare minimum when it came to this map. Difficulty feels just about right for this type of map, with the wide open layout making it a nice training ground for new players, and the Wonder Weapon is a perfect reimagining of something that didn't quite work out in the past, so that's also a big positive. I don't think it's a bad map by any means, but it doesn't set out to achieve very much, and has a very boring look and vibe. I wish Liberty Falls was more willing to go a little more out there with some of the ideas they wanted to portray. All of the enemy types here as well are reused, which is a really big missed opportunity and kind of boring. We could have gotten something new with this map, and that's always something I think about. I'm putting it in D tier. Oh, and also Kevin Sherwood's back with the crazy Easter egg songs in this game. So, if you're into that, make sure you give him a listen. BO6 at this point has had a decent launch, all things considered. A decent map that pushed the boundaries of zombies with Terminus, and a simple, unambitious survival map in Liberty Falls. The question would be if BO6 would continue to be ambitious like it was in Terminus, or would they tone down the ambition and play it safe like Liberty Falls. Enter the first map added after launch, Citadelle of the Dead. In Citadel, we have our main cast returning in this map, but there's something a little off.
I cannot tell how or why they are occurring.
Sam's voice sounded a little different once players got in game. In fact, all of her voice lines in Terminus as well had been completely changed and sound way different now. Our Samantha Maxis has had the same voice in Zombies, Julie Nathanson, since her first appearance even in Call of Duty World at War. But she was recast, and all of her already recorded voice lines in the first map were replaced by somebody else because Activision abruptly let her go. You see, during mid-2024, there were huge voice actor strikes across the US in regards to AI rights and replicating voices amid other big concerns at the time. Our dear Samantha was part of the strikes. Because of Activision's stubbornness in reaching a deal in a reasonable amount of time, they decided that recasting certain people would just be the easier answer. I don't want to speak ill of the new voice actress for Sam. I don't have any complaints in regards to her performance. The fact is, many players were bitter about the conditions in which Samantha was recast in. Activision also caught more fire because they were caught using AI in more parts of the game, such as this calling card right here was AI generated and is an item in the game right now. And at the time, Activision was experimenting with using AI in advertising. People were not on board with all of these things Activision was doing, and they shouldn't be. Activision is a company that will push things to the extreme until they are forced to change their habits due to consumer feedback or legal regulations. Community reception to the AI controversy was harsh, and it really did hurt the launch of Citadelle Des Morts because it was around the same time as this was going on. Given these rocky circumstances, what was the map's gameplay actually like, and was it anything worth playing in the first place? The intro cutscene sets our crew returning with Sergei Revanov, a character from Cold War Zombies. We're here to get clues as to where the Sentinel artifact could be. He was working with the local cartel here and he had some information that could help us. He says that there would be some clues inside of the castle, but then our crew gets attacked and are forced out into the street. The cutscene is short and it takes place entirely in this room. It felt like they were wearing the cutscene budget thin compared to launch with this one, and this problem would only get worse as we continue throughout the year. After Weaver and friends jump out the window, we find ourselves in this old misty village courtyard. In the middle is the statue of an old god, and across the way we can see the castle looming over the tavern. The tavern area is close quarters and has an arsenal and a crafting bench in the basement. On either side of the courtyard is the path up the hill towards the castle. The left side would go through a more rural hillside with a barn, and the other will take you through the village streets. Both sides reunite at opposing sides of the castle gates. Once we enter the courtyard, we'll find that the main entrance to the castle is completely blocked off. So how do we get in? Why, using a big cannon, of course. With a little rotation, we blast the castle gates right open. This is how you open a door. Upon entering, we find that the old castle is covered in graffiti everywhere, and there's lots of evidence around that gangs have used this place as a hideout for their drug cartels. This is a really cool way to go into the castle and all, but I feel like it's missing something. There's a lot you could do with this type of thing. In the trailer, they showed the new zombie boss behind the castle door when it gets blown open, but once we get into the game and try it for ourselves, there is nothing there. It's a little disappointing, and having something waiting there for you would have added a little extra oomph to this part that it needed. Instead, what we get is a little bit underwhelming. Proceeding into the castle splits off into paths that all reunite at the basement. One way to go is this throne room that has an open roof and statues of knights present in the room. On the second floor of this throne room, we'll find the new perk for this map, the Grand Return of Vulture. Working almost just like BO2's version with augments, this perk is a more than welcome addition. It helps to supplement extra points here and there, as well as give ammo drops. Going down the right side of the room will take us to a lower level prison and then Pack-a-Punch. To open it, we have to shoot the locks off of this crate and unleash the new boss enemy of Citadel, the Doppelgast. A tall, armless, three-faced monster that'll run at you with high speeds and shoot spikes out of its body to slow you down. This guy doesn't have the most health, but will be a big threat with its slowing capabilities in the later rounds, as well as the relentless chase this guy puts up due to its high speed. After killing it, you'll be rewarded with this red crystal that spawns Pack-a-Punch. At this point, you can find a sewer tunnel in the room that'll take you back to spawn, and there will be a new portal in the tavern that takes you back to Pack-a-Punch. So making your way to and from the castle shouldn't be that bad, but it's not like Citadel is really that big of a map. It's criminal that a castle map has this little castle play space. I want to see more of it with more grand feeling areas. Instead, we have a couple of hallways, while the rest of the map is this village that also feels somewhat underwhelming. I do actually like the look of the village area, but it feels far too small and it's really limited to maybe 100 feet in this one street. Citadel, from a map and layout perspective, doesn't commit hard enough to the ideas that it plays with. It would be so much better if we had more of both village and castle. It just feels really disappointing. Maybe I'm alone in this take, or maybe I'm not. The enemies as well are almost completely reused from previous maps. Special rounds are the same with vermin and parasites, and they still do spawn in the regular gameplay alongside regular zombies. And we already saw the Doppelgast enemy type that spawns pretty frequently once we get to the higher rounds. I do actually like this freaky looking enemy. They're not too strong, and they also aren't something you can ignore because of their slowing spikes and fast speed. They feel just right, and they work well into the elemental sword wonder weapons, which we will talk about in a minute. There is, however, an actual boss enemy that spawns sometimes in Citadel that players might not be very familiar with. It's called the Amalgam. Are you serious? Okay, so they brought back the Amalgam for its second appearance in BO6. So now it's in 2 out of the 3 maps that we have at this point. I don't know why they're back instead of some cool medieval themed boss enemy. Just imagine some kind of giant zombie executioner type of thing. How cool would that be? But no, we have the Amalgam, vermin, parasites, all completely unchanged from how they were in Terminus. It's frustrating that we didn't get a completely new roster of enemies that actually fit the castle theme, and I would say this heavily hurts the uniqueness that Terminus had. It just takes away the enemy variety that you could only get there. The lack of proper enemy variety will hurt map replayability in the long run. Starting close to round 10, these dumb-looking buckethead zombies will start to spawn in. They will drop stamps, which you use to unlock one sword at a time at the knight statues. Because of how easy it is to get the stamps, getting a sword naturally on your first playthrough is almost guaranteed. Starting with the base sword itself, it can kill up to 2 enemies at a time in close range, and it also has a parry attack, which can be used to stun enemies and deflect projectiles. This sword itself is fine as a melee weapon, but we can upgrade it to have special elemental abilities. Starting with the first sword on our list, the Fire Sword. This thing is incredibly easy to make and can probably take you just 1 minute to complete. All you need to do is take the base Dragon Knight sword and put it in this dragon statue, which will light up. You then need to go to these 3 flaming cauldrons around the map and run the flame back to the statue before dying to the fire's damage. Your movement speed is increased while you have the flames, making it possible to actually get there in time before you die to the fire. This step is really exciting because you have to dodge zombies along the way and get to the statue alive with the fire. The only thing is, there's actually 0 threat to you carrying the flame. Zombies will spawn in front of you during the step, which is supposed to add a lot of challenge, but it actually removes all of the challenge from this step in the first place. Punching a zombie resets your health almost all the way to full, which negates all of the challenge that this step initially had. At first, it seemed like a race against time to make it to the dragon, but the fact that you heal from punching the zombies that spawn in your path is kind of disappointing.
Fucking invincible!
To top it all off, once you reach the 3rd flame and bring it to the dragon, it'll start breathing fire on your sword and you'll receive the upgraded sword. And that's it. There's no more steps, you just have the sword. The weapon itself looks really cool and it fires out this powerful explosive fire blast, which is charged by getting kills using the sword. I think the weapon is good, but the process to get it is very lackluster. You can get it completely upgraded in about a minute from when you first received the sword. You are practically handed this thing. It feels really rushed and like there should be 1 or 2 more steps before receiving it. This is a running theme for all of the swords in this game. The Raven Sword has one thing you have to do. You grab this bone artifact from the study and place it on this wall in the tavern basement and insert your sword into it. You then have to get a code which corresponds to the bone that you picked up. Only problem with this is you cannot get the code in the game. You have to look it up online since there's not so much as a hint in the game itself without outside knowledge. I wish they had some sort of chart or something in-game that I can reference to try and put together this puzzle. After doing this, a void tear will open up and you have to just escort these slow-moving explodey balls into the void holes. I'm going to speed this up so you can see the entirety of this process. This is dumb and there's no way to do it faster. You just sit there and wait for the balls to go into the hole. It's so boring and really annoying. This is just not fun. At least running around with the fire in your hands is cool, even if still underwhelming in itself. Then after the final one is done, the energy will go back to the sword and then it will re-emerge from the void as the powerful Raven Sword. The steps to get this are so brain dead and boring. I'm not sure how you can have fun upgrading this thing when the challenge is to stand still for a minute straight. Despite all of that, this is probably one of the strongest swords in the game. It summons this black hole that sucks in zombies and does massive damage to everything else. It's great for getting out of sticky situations with its ability to stun zombies and horde clear potential. Only downside of this is in some areas it bugs and the ability won't go off if you're in a tight space. The Lion Sword is also just as quick to get. As soon as you pick up the sword, a group of glowing parasites will spawn in. You have to hit them with your sword and make your sword glow. Using that glowing sword, you have to hit this door in the village. You have to do this 4 times in total to get into this room, where you shoot these 4 symbols in order to get the sword. And that's it. Again, one of my least favorite things of this map is the sword setup. Getting my frontal lobe bitten off would be more fun than this. Now, what can this one do? When fully charged, the light sword has a passive that regenerates armor whenever you kill a zombie with it. Using the special ability turns you into a Beyblade of Death where you're able to walk into enemies and they will just get eviscerated. And now for the final sword on our list, the Lightning Sword. This thing easily has the best quest out of all of them and has the most unique steps. You have to acquire these lightning rods around the map to get it. This first one is found laying by Deadshot. The second one is found by using lightning damage on this box. The third is stuck inside of a zombie's armor by Quick Revive. Then, using that, you run up to this box and place the rods in it. Placing the rods in here will summon a lightning storm and wind, which looks amazing, and it takes up this whole quarter of the castle. In this segment, you have to fight and hold your ground using the sword against zombies until lightning strikes it. Once the sword is struck by lightning, you have to get around the zombies and hit the rods with the lightning, rinse and repeat 3 times, and it just will fart out an upgrade. The sequence here leading up to the sword looks amazing, and I really like having to hold my ground with the sword in a slightly enclosed space. This thing is able to fire a strong beam of electricity, and it'll stun and kill everything in front of you. I did say the swords were incredibly powerful, but that comes with certain conditions. They're alright, but they are significantly better with melee macchiato augments. It just sucks that you have to spend your time researching this perk in order to have more fun on the map, which is a lame requirement if you ask me. Plus, with how close quarters most of Citadel is, without faster attack speed to clear the way or lifesteal, it's super easy to get overrun unless you're in the spawn room. Remember, there are more zombies than ever at the same time on the map, and they hit really quickly. Dodging is hardly an option in a cramped space. To get started on the Easter egg, we have to head back to the prison level. If you interact with the cell door, the viewport will open up and you'll see a man trapped inside. Dr. Kraft, a strange old man that has studied the dark ether and the supernatural. He's also a returning character from Vanguard Zombies. Huh. He's trapped here, but he is willing to help us find the Sentinel artifact. Using some bad breath, we are now granted the ability to see things we couldn't before, probably due to the nerve damage he just gave us. Going back up to the throne room, we can see this wall disappear once we get close to it and reveal a study full of relics and all sorts of research. This map has got a ton of moving parts and puzzles that flow incredibly well with each other. You can do literally just about any step in the Easter egg process right now because there is no linear path until it all comes back together towards the end. A lot of what you can start to do is way out in the open for players to naturally find while exploring the map. The more straightforward logic that the modern Easter eggs use is very good from a player perspective. For starters, we can very visibly see this weird crystal in the throne room. Naturally, a player would want to shoot this, and so it reveals a beam of red light. Shooting it changes the angle of the light, and you have to piece together these other crystals in order to hit the statue, which will reveal a brooch. After picking it up, you'll most likely find this glowing symbol nearby in the throne room. Interacting with it will start a wave of zombies that the light will spawn in, and after enough kills, a chest will appear, but you can't open it unless you have the correct elemental sword type. Hitting this with the light sword, inside, we will find our first, and sadly only, map-exclusive equipment in BO6, an Incantation of Light. This takes up your equipment slot and almost functions as a delete button for some zombies in your way. This magic scroll will turn some zombies in front of you into healing drops. This thing has some cool presentation, but things get better. There's one of these for each element hidden behind a simple set of items that you can naturally find around the castle. The Void Incantation will teleport zombies out of your way. Electric will stun and deal massive damage. A huge plus is the Lightning Incantation will instantly kill an amalgam, so I guess it makes them barely a concern if you have this. Still annoying we have amalgams in the first place. And fire will do big damage over time. The incantations have aura and are totally worth the hassle. Map exclusive equipment is always a good way to make the gameplay more unique compared to other maps, and I would say they delivered here. It's just a shame that they didn't make more equipment like this for other maps. Continuing on with the Easter egg, we need Melee Macchiato to punch a hole in this wall. This reveals a bunch of symbols. In order to find the correct order, all that's needed is a quick trip to the bar and about 20 shots at each table. Once you're finished shooting the moving symbols in order, another wall will open up revealing a book with missing pages. A small scavenger hunt by Stamina will give you all that you need for this. I really do like how satisfying a lot of the Easter egg feels. You're getting a lot of pieces and putting together a puzzle that, unlike the Raven Sword, does not need outside knowledge to complete. By the way, all of this outside of unlocking the incantation chest can be done before you even get the first sword. The rest of the steps will require having the swords built, but I really appreciate the freedom that we have. I know I talked a lot about the sword build processes sucking, but the rest of the Easter egg most certainly does not. Back to the main objective, you must look at the book symbols and find the corresponding floor traps which you can find laying around. I didn't talk about these yet, but they function somewhat as a ring of fire, making it so you don't have to reload your gun as long as you remain within the circle, as well as having these weird balls that do increased damage to enemies. I've seen some crazy high round strategies that make great use of them, so their effectiveness really can't be understated. However, that does not matter for the Easter egg in the slightest. All you gotta do is activate the traps in the right order and kill like 10 zombies in each one, and then it turns off. Once all 4 are charged up, this wall will reveal a certain order of the knight symbols. In order to do this step, we have to use the incantation on the first knight, and then weapon inspect right in front of it, which I don't think I've said it yet, but these animations are really cool. Do the rest in order, and then we're all done. They'll then put their goon force together to create this jar, which is used for one final trial before the boss. We have to find all 4 spots to put the ball, and then do a challenge at each one. And now you have the ball charged with the elements and other questionable fluids. This ball is used to open up that wall where we got the knight's order from. This reveals a room from the old keeper of the castle. There's a lot of lore scattered about this guy in the radio and intel, but we'll focus on more important things. He yaps about this being his son's greatest upcoming trial and gives us a key to unlock the Guardian boss fight. This is easily the best and coolest boss fight in BO6 Zombies for me. Taking that Guardian key, you can come back to spawn and insert it into the statue we saw. It springs to life, and with a massive slam of its hammer, it teleports us into this underground arena filled with lava. The Guardian's imposing figure is menacing and it fills the screen. This guy is not a joke of a fight. The whole thing revolves around you trying to bust his armor open and damaging it through the cracks. Trying to use the sword is a bit tough because most of its attacks are close quarters and deal massive damage. And this guy can leap and crush you And he has a ranged hammer slam attack that'll spawn trails of lava. Zombies and other enemies will also spawn in while you try and dodge the attacks. Around each side of the center platform will be a chest with each of the incantations in it. The devs made absolutely sure you got your mileage out of the incantations. Talk about a grand finale to a map. Every single time I've done this boss, it's always a fight for survival. I legit never know if I'll come out the other side or not. The smallest hit will stop your health from regenerating, whether that be stepping on a pile of lava or getting launched to the far reaches of the map. However, the fight still feels totally fair and still somewhat in your control. This is how boss fights should be done. Not too easy, not impossibly hard and unfair, just perfect. As you progress through the fight, more lava will fill the play space, making the arena smaller and smaller. Luckily, there are small breathers you can get at certain health milestones, allowing you to calmly get more ammo and to make the most of the incantations that are in the room. Every time the Guardian reawakens, it'll move faster and faster until the fight is over. What an amazing set piece to end Citadel. At the end, he'll explode into pieces and drop this amulet, which will be used to later find the Sentinel artifact. This map's Easter egg is really strong for the most part, and it has a top tier boss fight to round it out. I do have quite a lot of issues with Citadel, but I won't hide that I had a really good time playing through it. The end cutscene will play, revealing to us in Kraft's dying words where the Sentinel artifact is, and he begs us not to harm Richthofen because he is his adopted son. Our characters don't seem to care at all, actually. They just want to continue their journey, so they leave Kraft's dead body and head off to the dig site that'll be known to players as the Tomb. Citadel is pretty fun once you get the swords, and has a really intuitive Easter egg quest that flows together very well, and is fun to repeat. The fact that I can pick and choose where to spend my time first is amazing, and working towards multiple objectives at once feels satisfying as ever. Incantations are an awesome equipment and great additions to this map's sandbox. Lots of positives gameplay-wise, but I still can't help but be disappointed in a lot of ways. For one, the layout really bugs me. We have this huge castle in front of us, but we can only explore barely any of it. Imagine barely seeing any of the castle in Der Eisendrache, when the whole point of it is a castle-themed map. If this one was bigger, I think I would like it a lot more, as well as the sword quests being improved. It doesn't feel like much of a reward if you don't really work for it, or even have fun building most of them in the first place. Enemy types being almost completely reused as well is an annoying aspect. They've been trying hard to emphasize this zombie evolution they introduced in BO6, but this feature isn't even that exciting or fun. This is something present on all of the maps minus Liberty Falls. Zombies can sometimes turn into vermin, who sometimes can turn into parasites randomly. Then in Citadel, parasites can merge with doppelgasts to become amalgams. This is a rare event and punishes players for leaving them alive for too long, or it'll just happen randomly. This pointless gimmick shouldn't be an excuse for them to just reuse everything in every map. It's dumb and should have just been limited to Terminus. You know, a map that's themed around mutation and experimenting on the undead. It would have made that map so much more unique than it is nowadays. And considering what is on screen right now, I want to remind you, dear audience, that all of the equipment in the crafting table carries over map to map. You can just mutant inject and chopper gunner your way through Citadel as much as you want. I wish they restricted some of these things to specific maps, so you don't have the same exact equipment sandbox everywhere. The incantations are the only thing that is unique to this map other than the swords. And the armor system is also completely untouched from how it was at launch. This is the perfect map to do something unique with armor or give it some kind of appearance, like medieval armor or something, but no. This really makes you love and appreciate the zombie shield from older games even more, because the zombie shields would change their appearance and abilities on a map-to-map basis. But here with armor, it's so lame. There's one last thing that Citadel does that is very unique that I will give massive praise to. It's this character-specific side quest. If you're playing as Maya from the main crew, at some point when this radio is making sounds in the map, you can walk up to it and talk to somebody on the other end. You'll be let into the cellar and fight your way through a ton of vermin and a doppelgast encounter. Once you reach the back of the place, Maya will chase after this guy in a cutscene, who is the leader of the group that kidnapped and sold her brother away to the scientist in Terminus. This castle was that group's very hideout. She came here for one thing alone, and that is revenge for Nathan, and she gets it. This is a satisfying way for Maya's story to end. She finishes her journey to avenging her brother. The only problem is, this is effectively the end of Maya's character arc. She doesn't exactly have much more purpose in the story from here on. The other characters are still after Richthofen, of course, but Maya achieved her goal and doesn't get any more character development the rest of the season. This character-specific encounter was really cool, and we got to see more of the castle this way, but this is the last time in the game we really got something like this. But the problem is, in the main gameplay, they just have the same voice lines for every single map. I can probably count on my hands how many new lines they have per map. They did so well giving every single map unique voice lines in Old Zombies that it puts a shame to whoever was in charge of the voice lines for each character. I'm putting Citadelle in B tier. About 1 month after Citadel released, you love it or you hate it, the Tomb broke the Zombies community when it released. And this is not an exaggeration. People hated the Tomb. And with the record speed this map was released, it led to so many questions about the quality and future of Black Ops 6 Zombies. Was Treyarch rushing this out the door to hide eyes away from the AI controversy, or were they just so confident in their work that it could come out 1 month earlier than normal? We're going to get into all of the juicy details as to why the Tomb was such a hated map. Once you select the Tomb, it'll spawn you immediately into this large earthy excavation site. There's no intro cutscene or anything. You just drop instantly into the game. This comes back to my concern about the cutscene budget, AI controversy, or whatever was going on inside Treyarch at the time. Whatever caused it, the Tomb certainly got the short end of the stick. And we're gonna need to talk about that outro cutscene when we get to it. Anyways, our crew is here to find the Sentinel artifact in the Tomb before Richthofen can get his grubby little hands all over it. You'll also be greeted by this weird spirit Archibald who will try to be quippy and cute.
Our quarry lies beyond the so-called door to nowhere.
Archibald is this long-dead archaeologist that died trying to pursue the Sentinel artifact, and for some reason his spirit was preserved and he's able to contact us, which is kind of annoying considering we already have Dr. Peck, Strauss in the helicopter, Raptor 1, and now Archibald. For some reason, Ravenov is also here, still following our crew when technically his role is over. He doesn't do anything else for the remainder of the maps that he's in, but he's in the rest of them. Our cast is getting way too bloated. Why are all of these voices talking to us on the radio when half of them don't even have a purpose anymore? Anyways, I don't know who Archibald thinks he is, but I want him out of my head. There are 2 entrances to the Tomb, and they converge at the very back. The left side will take you down some catacombs and some old ruins. At the catacombs, we are introduced to the new perk that came with this map, Death Perception. It's still technically a returning perk from BO4. This perk allows you to see zombies through walls, as well as other bonuses you can get with augments. You'll also find these purple lamps in each area that you can shoot down that acts like a fire trap for zombies. Going further down into the Tomb, we'll find this torchlit room that contains stamina. There's old statues everywhere. On the right side, we have more dark caves and remnants of old society. Arrow traps are in a lot of the hallways, and more of those dark ether crystals and lamps are present. The 2 sides meet up at opposite ends of this huge open cavern. As soon as you open the door, some familiar music will play as you take in the sights of the bottomless pits, a rolling waterfall, and some more ruins. Atop this pedestal, we can use the artifact we found at the end of Citadel to open up a portal to the dark ether. This is our first time in BO6 properly stepping foot into the dark ether, and it is a sight for sure. The environment reminds me a bit of Revelations with the floating rocks and the never-ending stars. This big mound is covered in all sorts of weird dark ether plants in this monument. Pack-a-Punch and Juggernog can also be found here. And on the other side, we find this floating wall blocking the way to the Sentinel artifact in the distance. On each of the 4 sides of the room, we have portals that'll take us to the other ends of the map. In total, the Tomb is similar in size to Liberty Falls. I will say, for all the hate the Tomb gets, the environment is definitely not part of that discussion. The Dark Ether area is so unique, and all the ruins and dark caves are really cool looking. This is kind of what I wanted more from BO6 Zombies. Less typical locations and something more unique. And the Tomb definitely delivers on that. Now, getting into some of the controversy, the real hate comes from a lot other elements in the Tomb. To get started on the Wonder Weapon, we have to get to round 8, where the new enemy of this map will spawn in. An enemy type that fans have totally been begging to come back for years now, and something we've definitely been missing. The Mimic from Cold War Zombies, and subsequently Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, and the campaign for BO6, and now it's back in the Tomb.
What the fuck is this?
I don't know why they reused the Mimic in this map. This thing is so annoying, and it will just grab you and pop up in your face as disguised props. It's not like it's the strongest thing in the world, but it's just kind of an annoyance more than anything else. And on the topic of it being annoying, it also is now a shock Mimic. So not only can they grab you in this animation, but also if you throw any grenades or anything at them, they're going to just stun you with electricity and you can't sprint. Also, we have vermin rounds back, we have parasites, doppelgasts, and even amalgams back on this map. It makes no sense why we're just continuing all of these same enemy types in every map. Not only can mimics grab you, but so can amalgams. There are 2 enemy types in this map that can grab you. For why? I want to know why 4 maps in, we have amalgams on 3 of them, vermin on all of them, parasites on 3, doppelgasts now on 2, and now we have the mimic. Treyarch, you are so much better than this. At this point in DLC 2, the only new enemy type was the doppelgast in Citadel. If you couldn't tell, I'm not exactly thrilled by any of this. I don't want to be shooting at the exact same enemies on every single map. The fact that they reuse every special enemy is so infuriating. New stuff is always better than old stuff. When I'm playing a new map, I want new. You can bring back old, but you have to be really tasteful in how you do it. Some of the later maps in this game actually do that really well, and we'll talk about that. But right here, it is just so dumb. Don't even get me started on how often all of these things spawn during a normal round. Back on track, killing the first mimic will drop a monocle, which we need to do the next step. Next, we have to head back out to these 2 cave murals we passed earlier. You have to shoot the purple lanterns until they're in the right spawn point in front of these, where it will light up with Roman numerals. You just have to shoot the numbers in the right order, and a lockdown will start where you have to defeat waves of enemies until it spawns a part for the wonder weapon. This piece may look a little familiar. Doing both lockdowns will reward players with the head and body of a staff, which we can take to the Dark Ether. We'll take our parts to this glowing section and begin the construction sequence. A ton of enemies will spawn in consistently, and you have to defend the staff from being destroyed. This step is pure chaos. You have to be very prepared to pull this off because this part is very difficult for a lot of players. Completing it, you'll be rewarded with the Staff of Ice. Yes, the exact same one from Origins. Not only does the tomb reuse all the enemy types, but it reuses the wonder weapon too. This map would have been so much cooler if they managed to get an original wonder weapon and a boss enemy. Tomb loses a lot of points for me because of this. It's like the devs thought, hey, you remember this thing you really like? What if we just did that again and didn't do something new? Just recycle everything. And for the Easter egg, as we'll see, it's literally just get the Staff of Ice upgraded into the Ul's Arrow and do one more easy thing, and that's it. The staff in its base form is straight up pitiful. It's literally a limp stick that shoots snowflakes and does the bare minimum when it comes to damage. Just like Origins though, the real hype comes from the upgraded staff. The first step of upgrading the staff, we have to hit 3 of these ether lanterns within 10 seconds of each other, which can be quite tricky depending on their position. After doing it right, Archibald will yap about something probably not important, and you'll be able to step inside the Dark Ether. There will be 3 floating rocks that have a symbol on it somewhere, and you have to shoot it with the ice staff. The rock will come down, making it more visible. These symbols will pair up with symbols on one of the portal doors, which is now closed. To enter it, all you have to do is just shoot them with the ice staff and go through the door. If you shot an incorrect symbol or misread one of them, the game rewards your failure with instantaneous, unavoidable death. Sure is fun doing that the first couple times. Getting it right will spawn this orb, which you have to escort while zombies spawn around you. It'll go all around the Dark Ether, even spawning an amalgam to get you away from this thing. Getting too far means failure until the next round. Once the orb settles into the staff hole, stick your pole in and you'll receive the Ul's Arrow. This thing is the exact same as the one from Origins. It's got the bladed ends, the charged ice vortex attack, and the healing beam. This is one of the strongest wonder weapons in zombies history, and it retains all of that power we remember from way back when. Very disappointing. We missed out on a completely original wonder weapon for this map and a completely original cast of enemies. But at the very least, the staff is very fun to use. It's great for high rounding, and the only thing it's bad at is killing the boss enemies like the Amalgam and Mimic. At this point, we are 80% done with the Easter egg quest, and I am not kidding. All we did was get the staff. We have one more segment to get through before the boss fight. Using the heal beam from the upgraded staff, we have to light these statues up in the Dark Ether to do trials for them in the right order based on the lowest to highest rank of enemy. Starting with the vermin, you hit the statue and go to the corresponding one by spawn using the essence you got from it. This will start a mini trial, which is a cakewalk with the ice staff. All it does is spawn vermin, so you just have to shoot one charge shot, wait, and it's over. After you clear the vermin challenge, this purple flame will spawn and you have to carry it all the way back to the Dark Ether and put it onto the statue. Then you can do the next one, which is the parasite. It spawns an easy trial where you put the parasite's balls into the statue after you kill them. You can then bring the energy back to the original statue just like you did with the vermins and repeat for the other two. Doppelgast trial isn't the most interesting in the world, and the amalgam spawns a red amalgam with increased health and damage. And bam, you have boss fight unlocked. Yep, you get the staff, then do 4 boring and uninteresting trials. This will unlock the bridge to the boss area, which is revealed to be the Sentinel artifact. Okay. This fight works in multiple phases. Once you begin, the artifact will rise up into the sky and start shooting an instant death ray in circles, forcing you to take cover as it spins. It'll spin for a while, and then when it cools down, you can go out and deal damage to it before it fires out this ball that will summon special enemies if you fail to blast it. After busting the first artifact, another is summoned, making it twice as dangerous to go outside and touch grass. As you go further, you'll end up with 4 Sentinel artifacts all shooting lasers. Once you get far enough, it will summon champions bearing the artifact in their head. They will have extremely high health and damage. When you kill them, you have to shoot the artifact before it can spawn another thing. The champions can range from the regular zombies to doppelgasts, mimics, and amalgams. A lot of these guys will literally one-shot you and can't be slowed by the ice staff. It's such a stupid and unfun difficulty spike that makes no sense. They just kill you instantaneously and there's not much you can do about it to slow them down. Not to mention the fact how they are bullet sponges that'll take so much of your ammo. All the while, you're stuck taking cover from the instant death lasers. It is a hard fight and the one-shots feel cheap. If you're able to survive all of that, the final phase has the artifacts shooting all of their beams into this wall. If they succeed before you're able to kill all of them, it launches an instant death attack, ending your run completely. Killing it will cause the end cutscene to start playing, where we collect the Sentinel artifact. The rest of the cutscene is a completely CG sequence where Sam just tells us what's happening next time on Call of Duty Zombies. No one else talks in this cutscene. There's no character development, no dialogue, nothing. Questions remain if this was due to the map being made late, the voice actor strike, or other reasons, but it felt really lacking. A lot of people came to the conclusion that the Tomb is a filler map, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with it. It's an easy map that feels like the Easter egg was an afterthought. They reused enemies, wonder weapons, and has a very strangely balanced boss fight, which makes for a very strange combination. There's a few side Easter eggs like the jump scare and golden armor quest, but there's not much interesting to do other than surviving to high rounds. I will say this in defense of the Tomb. It is a great survival map, but story-wise, this is a very big letdown and filler map. There was no point to our characters visiting the Tomb, and there is no point for Archibald to exist, and there's no point for Ravenov to be tagging along with our crew when he doesn't do anything. And let's not forget, I will bring this up again later, but our crew does not get original voice lines for each map for general gameplay. They don't change on a map-to-map basis, so we're just playing glorified operators. This isn't exactly the worst map of all time, but it really is a letdown from what we know Treyarch is completely capable of. While Citadel was a disappointment for me in some areas, there was so much going for it. The map had a lot of moving parts, and the Easter egg and boss fight were a lot of fun to do, while the Tomb is very much lacking in content besides getting the staff and has an almost non-existent and very pointless plotline. You could have just given us the Sentinel artifact at the end of Citadel and gone from there. There's no point to the Tomb existing. I think players would have appreciated the Tomb a little more if they had marketed it more as a survival type of map and if it was released as a bonus and not part of the main DLC season. As Sam already told us, the next map will take place back in Liberty Falls at Project Janus HQ, Richtofen's mansion, the Shattered Veil. Oh, and sorry Tomb enjoyers, this is going in D tier. The next map on our list takes our crew to the Project Janus facility inside of Richtofen's mansion, the exact same one we saw in the Liberty Falls intro cutscene, the Shattered Veil. Once again, we spawn into the map with no intro cutscene, and no unique loading screen, just the sequence identical to multiplayer we've gotten all too familiar with at this point. Really big missed opportunity with no intro, because that's where a lot of the excitement for a map comes plot-wise. We spawn at the far side of the mansion yard, and if you remember from the Tomb's ending, we are here to give Sam the Sentinel artifact, which needs to be powered up using some of the technology that's present here. From the spawn room, you can see Liberty Falls down the mountain, which is a nice little addition. And Ravenov is also still here on the radio for some reason. If you're expecting him to be relevant or useful in the slightest, yeah, no. We also still have Peck, Strauss, Raptor 1, and Sam all communicating with us as we play through the map. Again, a bloated cast that has no purpose since we already have a main crew that we can play as. I don't even think I would care that much if we didn't have 5 voices in our heads as we play the game. That's way too many, and it breaks my immersion, again with this little radio card on the side of the screen. After making it to the far end of the yard, we can make our way either through the greenhouse or the open field. There's already a lot of things that look like they have purpose, like this big crystal, the machines here, and these plants. Truth be told, outside of those things, the entire outside part of this map is very plain and very boring to look at. The colors aren't very interesting, and nothing in the environment will really grab your attention visually. I wish the art team did more to dress up the outside of the map because it just sucks. Making our way through either path, we will enter the mansion's courtyard. Fires have broken out and Project Janus vehicles are destroyed everywhere. There's also a statue of Richthofen's deceased son right next to the front entrance. The real magic will happen once we open the front door. We are greeted by this wide open foyer featuring a full T-Rex fossil on display with soft blue lighting coming in from the ceiling. This part of the map looks a lot more like what we expect to come from zombies. Going through the left side door will take us through the west wing of the mansion. There's many desolate hallways and a nursery area that belong to Richthofen's son. We can find another crystal on the balcony up here, and there are more walkways that go deeper into this maze of a mansion. And quite honestly, in this area, you will get lost. After we pass Richthofen's bedroom, we'll find our way to the very back of the mansion, where you will be amazed with the perk that's been long overdue to return to zombies, Double Tap Root Beer. Back in all of its glory, we finally have Double Tap after 10 years since its last Treyarch appearance in BO3. 10 years. That is such a ridiculous amount of time to think about. For those of you that are new, Double Tap increases the fire rate of your weapons, and with augments, can help double the damage you do to zombies. It's been far too long. Turning around from here, there's an elevator that needs repairs, but first, you need to grab 2 parts that will be labeled with objective markers that I still don't know why I can't turn off. One of the parts can be acquired by just shooting the computer in Richthofen's bedroom, and the other part is in the east wing of the mansion in the library. Using this, we can repair the elevator to the basement. Once the elevator arrives and opens its doors, a small wave of zombies will come bursting out. I'll say it just like I did with Liberty Falls, I really like events like this that add just a little bit of flavor to what you're doing, and that's always appreciated in the series. Once we get those guys cleared out, pressing the button again will collapse it into the elevator shaft. This is a very satisfying way to introduce the basement of the map. We can now zip down the cables and come face to face with Sam, the physical computerized sphere that strange AI inhabits.
Greetings and salutations.
She's massive and takes up the entire center of the room, constantly staring at you, thinking. The lab is circular and covered in blue and purple lights. There are computers everywhere, and off to the side, we can find ourselves Pack-a-Punch. Sam will talk to us occasionally, quipping at things she sees us do and reacting to us shooting at her. But there's not a whole lot of meaningful conversation our characters can have with Sam passively, which I feel is a criminally missed opportunity, and it bugs me a lot. You would expect our crew to have so much to say to this mysterious AI that's been leading us on this wild goose chase across the entire world for this artifact of untold power, but, you know, I guess not. The lab area here is undoubtedly the best looking area in the map. Sam's presence is really felt in the room, and there's just more color compared to the washed out modern Call of Duty visuals that are on the outside of the mansion. If we go right under Pack-a-Punch, there's another door that unveils a long Project Janus service tunnel that'll run under the mansion. Here, there's an elite doppelgast in containment, and at the end of the tunnel is an armory and a teleporter. The exact same armory system from Terminus returns, where we can use loot keys to open up loot. The armory also happens to have a Raygun Mark II on display in a case, but it's locked. The cramped mansion halls also make for a very challenging environment, balanced out by the microwave traps and the powerful wonder weapons. I have a lot to say about the wonder weapons later. In terms of the visuals of this map, I feel like most of it isn't very interesting to look at, and even though the mansion itself doesn't look too bad, it doesn't do a lot special. I don't know why they're playing it so safe with the visuals. That's one of my biggest criticisms of this game, is just how it looks on a base level. I feel like Terminus and the Tomb both stood out way more than this. The enemies you'll find here on the Shattered Veil are just a little different than the previous maps. We still have vermin, parasites, and doppelgast, unfortunately, but there are for once no amalgams. Almost. A new boss enemy takes their usual place, the Elder Disciple, a mutated cultist that floats with a blue aura. This guy has a scream attack that'll disorient players, as well as the power to mutate and summon enemies. It will lift its arms into the air and bring a swarm of vermin, zombies, and parasites. If they are left alive for too long, it will mutate them into further stages in their evolution chain. If the parasite evolves into a doppelgast, there is a real chance the Disciple will mutate it further into an amalgam. Killing the Disciple will take out most of the things it summoned with a shockwave explosion, and taking it out quickly is the way to never see an amalgam on this map. While the evolution mechanic is not my favorite in zombies, I will say this guy has aura and he uses it right. The other new enemy is the Toxic Zombie. These will only appear on special rounds and replace the vermin and parasites we've gotten all far too familiar with at this point. These green skeletal zombies will chase after you, and killing them will cause an explosion that deals tons of damage to you. This enemy really makes you think about when's the best time to turn and shoot, and they make special rounds a lot more interesting than the copy and paste we've had for 4 maps straight. When Shattered Veil came out, a lot of the community was praising this map so heavily for its lack of special enemy spam. I don't think the community is exactly right in this, because you still do have a lot of doppelgasts around, and those guys are still special enemies as well. They were cool in Citadel, but for 3 maps in a row, it's so tiring. Now that the introduction to this map is over, let's check out the wonder weapons and the main quest of the Shattered Veil. First and foremost, we need to unlock this case with the Ray Gun Mark II. We're able to get it from the mystery box if you're lucky, but if not, there's an easy quest to get it. To do this, you first have to kill a special zombie that'll spawn on round 8 in the lab area around Sam. It will drop a floppy disk. You can take this to the computer near the library and print a message from Blanchard. During this long print sequence, a swarm of vermin will spawn in, but it should be an easy clear. The paper will have a certain word highlighted. This is correlated to the number board in the nursery, where we have to match up the letter to the number of letters in the group. This easy puzzle will give us a code for the door where this mean-looking doppelgast is locked up. Taking it down will reward us with an arm that we can use to open up our beloved Ray Gun Mark II, the burst fire version of the ray gun. It's really that easy to get it. If you've been paying attention to the gameplay so far in this video, you'll probably notice how I've been using this gun in some of the previous maps footage. That's because after the Shattered Veil came out, it was added to the box in every map. A very, very welcome addition to the player's arsenal. This thing is still so satisfying to use, and I'm very appreciative of its return as a bonus weapon. The Ray Gun Mark II on its own performs pretty well, but this thing does struggle a little bit with ammo without Vulture Aid. The Ray Gun Mark II also happens to be the main wonder weapon of this map, which we can upgrade into 3 variants. 2 of those 3 are from Alpha Omega in BO4 Zombies. As a bonus weapon, this thing is such a nice treat, but for it to be the primary wonder weapon instead of something brand new is frustrating. It is criminally disappointing that the follow-up of Zombies after 4 years of a break has this little new stuff. I didn't mind the jet gun because they reimagined it and made a lot of changes to it, but that was 1 map. For them to do this for half of the maps in the game is a big shame. They also, as a bonus, brought the Wonderwaff back to Shattered Veil. This one I'm not too upset with because it's only in the mystery box or an obscure side quest. Plus, it was shown in the Liberty Falls cutscene in Richtofen's mansion, so lore-wise, it makes 100% sense as to why we have it here. I would actually be upset if it wasn't here when it was shown in the cutscene. The Wonderwaff, in case you're wondering, is not changed from its previous iterations. It stuns and electrifies big groups of zombies, instantly killing them. It is a perfect weapon for the tight-cornered mansion and a callback done the right way. It's not there to be the main attraction, it's just a bonus. Same with the Mark II in the box for all of the maps. It's a good way to call back an old weapon without sacrificing the new stuff. Back to the upgrades, there are 3 variants of the Ray Gun Mark II. The shotgun, rifle, and fully automatic upgrades. Disappointingly, the automatic is by far the absolute best one for general use and the boss fight, while the others are criminally underpowered minus really niche strategies. To get the shotgun, you have to find a bomb that Richtofen put in one of these boxes around the map. We'll just have to shoot them until a bomb pops out, and then place that guy onto this wall in the service tunnels, and it will reveal this big secret room with a huge Dark Ether worm statue in the middle. This room is where we'll be unlocking the shotgun variant, but we first need a couple other parts around the map. We need a canister to place in this machine, and a couple of reflectors we find on these small side fountains. For the canisters, we have to do 3 boring little side quests in order to get them. Back to that secret room. We put a canister into this machine here, which will light up the crystal and start the process. The reflectors are placed onto these little stands, and we have to angle the light just right to hit these doppelgast statues. Then you have to actually punch the crystal, which will send a shockwave through the beam and ignite it. Surprise, surprise, a doppelgast will spawn in, and then you have to do this 2 more times with 2 more doppelgasts, and the worm will be fully charged. I wish this is where it ended for the doppelgasts, because you fight so many in the normal gameplay that this doesn't feel special in the slightest. Once we have that charged up canister, we can finally get the shotgun variant. But this version is really underwhelming. It does huge damage to a single enemy, but it really lacks any penetration damage that would make a shotgun good in the first place. It's also reused from Alpha Omega, if anyone even played that map in BO4, but with a tiny twist. It can cause zombies to sometimes drop this little sigil on the floor, which makes you invincible for about 5 seconds, and then it disappears. I'm not sure what use the devs thought this would be, but it's straight up a worthless ability. If you take the time to stand in that invincibility circle, you'll just get surrounded and then die because this shotgun does not kill enough enemies. The next variant, we literally just have to get seeds from these plants and then grow them in the greenhouse, and that's the entire process. Now we have the Ray Gun Mark II rifle done. This slow shooting monstrosity has one of the slowest fire rates I've ever seen for a wonder weapon, with so little return on most of the shots. It does loads of headshot damage and is great for taking out a few targets, but it's very difficult to run and gun with this thing, even with double tap. It's very likely that using this thing inside of the mansion will just get you killed. There is, however, one redeeming quality. Sometimes when you get kills with it, this gas will linger and kill maybe a couple enemies. Okay, maybe just skip this ray gun. The last one is easily the best and most consistent and useful while having the most challenging upgrade quest. After placing the canister out here in the yard, an abomination will spawn in the center of this room. You don't actually have to kill it though. Rather, we need its electric beam attack to hit these small rocks around the area to empower them. Then we have to somehow get the abomination to charge into the rocks to make them float. Once all the rocks are floating, the abomination will get deleted and energy will start getting sucked into the middle. Vermin will start spawning and attempt to disrupt the energy flow. Or you can just use score streaks and trivialize any challenge. This is easily the best ray gun variant to use 90% of the time, no questions asked. It has good ammo, high damage, and is great for getting things out of your way. It's also got another special ability. It spawns this little pile of blue fire on the ground sometimes when getting kills. No, it does not really do anything. You can technically start the next step once you have the corresponding upgrades for each part. Purple here, yellow there. Interacting will allow you to feed souls with the correct ray gun, which shouldn't take all too long. This opens up a portal in the frame, revealing a hidden room behind it. The only unique one is this blue painting where you have to just do a Simon Says challenge to open up this wall. In each of the painting rooms is a ghostly figure who is trapped within the liminal space by the Sentinel artifact. Starting with the painting we just opened up, the blue one requires obtaining a bell, which then using brain rot on a zombie by the bar, we can use the bell to call for servers and get a whiskey for free. Then we come back down, put the whiskey on the pedestal, and a small boss fight will start where you're trapped in the painting. The spirit will turn into this blue shielded mangler, and the shield can only be broken by the correct ray gun type. This fight is a breeze, and we lay his soul down to rest. Very peacefully. All three of the painting sequences, as you're going to see, are just us fighting special enemies that we've already seen in the game before, making each of these encounters kind of boring, to be honest. This would have been so much better if they had done something like the Zetsubo Nojima spider boss fight. That was cool. Can we get something like that again? Another thing to note is that after any of the paintings are done, Richtofen will start to communicate with the crew.
Do not believe a word she says.
He begs us not to listen to Sam, as she is not telling us the whole truth. You know, why would we listen to Richtofen anyways? Let's keep following the weird AI we don't really know anything about, and give her an all-powerful artifact that's capable of changing reality. Anyways, once we complete the other two easy puzzles associated with the paintings, you have to defeat each boss and then we're done. That's really about it to Shattered Veil. All you gotta do is build the ray guns and then do one little puzzle for each thing and then you're just finished. Anyways, once this last guy is sacrificed, we finally have a fully charged Sentinel artifact with their souls. The process is complete and we are ready to give up the artifact to Sam. No questions asked, even though Richtofen was saying she would betray us. That wouldn't happen, right?
I am sending you somewhere safe. Where you cannot interfere. This fight comes next.
So Sam takes it and sends us away somewhere, the very same place that she sent Richtofen at the beginning of the game. Our crew finally confronts him face to face in this cutscene, and we get a big lore drop about their past. Weaver and Samantha Maxis killed his family in a botched CIA hit a long time ago, and that's why he had such a big grudge against the crew the entire time. Weaver has to make an easy choice: revenge on the guy that locked him up for 5 years, or escaping to stop Sam from whatever she's doing. While this is happening, the Sentinel artifact's energy is resonating throughout the mansion, and it resurrects the T-Rex fossil in the entrance. A zombie T-Rex is the final boss of this map. Plot aside, this was a good excuse for the devs to do this idea, and I'm all here for it. The arena is in this pit outside of the mansion, and Richtofen will be on the high ground assisting players with sniper fire and occasional gifts like ammo or armor plates. The Z-Rex is a very powerful enemy with its mighty chomp and ranged acid attacks. This is a fun and challenging encounter all the way through, and it's a struggle to keep your distance and avoid getting stuck in its jaws. During this, toxic zombies will spawn in and attack the player alongside regular ones. The Z-Rex will sometimes eat them and cause this weak spot to open up, allowing for some good damage. Shattered Veil follows the precedent that the Patient 13 fight in Terminus set for us. BO6 has had a lot more emphasis on boss fights, and this map definitely delivers. The difficulty feels just about right for this. It's very challenging and might take you a couple tries, but it is very doable. This map definitely gets some points for the boss fight. Once we're able to complete this incredible fight, the Z-Rex finally collapses back into bones and dust, and our crew have to debate on what to do next. Richtofen leads us over to Janus Towers, the most likely place where Sam is gone. This will be the location of the final map in BO6 Zombies. One final thing to note about the boss fight is if you do it on round 100 plus, this green mist will roll in during it, and the difficulty of the fight will be increased. I think hidden modifiers like that to the boss fights is a really cool concept, and it rewards going to these crazy high rounds and doing the fights. The Shattered Veil is a map that strives in its gameplay, but lacks in innovation and visuals. I think that the community has glazed this map way more than it really does deserve. I will, however, list out some positives before we get into the negative. First off, I like the approach BO6 has had in Easter egg quest design from a player perspective. A lot of progression in the quest feels natural, and it makes replaying it more satisfying than needing a guide every single time I play it. Also, the new enemies are good. I like the look and difficulty of the toxic zombies and elder disciples. Just listen to the sound design. I also really like how the Wunderwaffe isn't tied to the main quest at all and is purely extra firepower you can pick up if you're lucky. It's still a lot of fun to use and can be absolutely busted with the right augment setup. The boss fight itself was also a ton of fun. I do think the arena is very boring looking, but the Z-Rex is really dang awesome. I remember dying the first couple of times I attempted this, which is good because if this guy rolled over without a fight, that would be pretty lame. Now for a few negatives about Shattered Veil. The visuals outside of the mansion are painfully boring to look at. Treyarch has been adhering too much to the modern, washed out, and realistic COD art style instead of the bold expression that we've had in previous games. I think this really hurts some of the level design. The map's wonder weapons are also completely reused, which is a bigger negative than people give it credit for. I wish instead we got something brand new alongside a bonus Ray Gun Mark II and Wunderwaffe. I think that would have been much more exciting than just getting these weapons again for the 100th time. Vermin, Parasites, and Doppelgast coming back also just suck. It's not fun fighting these in every single map of the game. The Toxic Zombie and Elder Disciple were cool. We need more stuff like that in the future. The Easter egg as well was pretty underwhelming when you really think about it. All we're doing is building the ray gun variants. 2 out of 3 are not very good, and then you're doing a small trial for a painting where you have to fight a mini-boss that we've already had in previous maps. I think that's the biggest sin that Shattered Veil has done. It has given us absolutely nothing that is new. Everything in this map has been in a previous map before. Whatever happened to innovation on a map-to-map basis? Everything so far has played it so safe since Terminus. As the second to last map in this game, I'm very disappointed in the complete lack of innovation that we've been presented. All of the equipment and the score streaks and everything is the same on every map, and even Double Tap, I love that it is back, but we've had no new perks in this game since Melee Macchiato. I'm putting this map in C tier. This wouldn't be a complete review if I didn't at least mention the limited time modes they attempted in the Return of Grief. There were many new game modes added into BO6 other than just the traditional round-based zombies throughout the lifetime, which is a cool idea in concept, but in execution, that's another story. They had the incredible release of Directed Mode, which helped walk new players through the maps and do the Easter egg quests. This is probably one of the best things they've added to modern zombies. However, they had many limited time modes featured in here, like the Starting Room Challenge, which was very well received by fans. This one locked all of the doors and you were limited to just whatever resources were in the spawn area. It really did feel like classic survival. I just wish I could have gotten footage of it myself because it was only around for a few weeks and I was busy during that time. I hope you don't mind, Donuts. It's a mystery as to why this one wasn't a permanent addition. It feels like a waste of dev time to not bring it back after initial release. Speaking of wasted dev time, I want to quickly go over some of the other game modes they added. BO6 did crossovers with multiple IPs in the year to try and sell bundles, like the ever so controversial Beavis and Butthead skins and American Dad.
What? Philadelphia? Oh, hell no!
Yes, this is legitimately in Call of Duty. Apart from the fact that the multiplayer art style has been completely eviscerated by Fortnite skins like this, Zombies had special limited time game modes which were all very unnecessary and a waste of time. For example, we had the Squid Game collab after Citadelle came out. They had to make a custom game mode based upon red light, green light, and it was really lame. You couldn't really do anything but survive in the regular maps, and it seemed like such a disappointment. Somebody had to sit there and program all of this. And then after the event was over, it just disappeared and was never to be seen again. They also made this whole terrible Beavis and Butthead game mode that just had you trying to kill an abomination in the Liberty Falls Church in a really low poly version of the map. The filter for these is so ugly, and I don't know why you would ever want to play with your map looking like this in the first place. They just really wanted to push you to buy these skins. There were a few more game modes added throughout the year, but the one I want to talk about is the biggest of any mode they added. Grief, a returning game mode from Black Ops 2 that the community has been begging to come back for years, for some reason. Look, I'll be honest, I didn't really play Grief back in the day, so this was all going to be fresh to me. The premise is you have two teams of 4 competing to out-survive one another while also trying to grief the other teams. This comes down to leading zombies to other players, melee stunning them, and shooting players to slow them down. You can also do objectives that'll pop up now and then, and it'll put debuffs on the other team if you do it first. All of the arenas also take place in small cutouts of already existing maps, which I do really like. I almost feel like they could make small survival maps out of these. That could be really fun. Anyways, this mode comes down to who has the better players, or who has the most busted melee weapon. By that, I mean, you still have loadouts in this game mode, and certain melee weapons are much faster than others. What people would do to you is always run up and constantly stun you over and over again with no cooldown, and you physically couldn't do much to fight back, until eventually, maybe you'll die from zombies, or you just leave because it's so annoying. The moment-to-moment gameplay is not very exciting unless you're in one of the smaller arenas, because in this big Terminus one, there's way too much space and not enough zombies for it to be any threat. The pacing for this game mode is whack, and battling other people just isn't very fun. Grief seems to be a miss for the larger player base, although I'm sure there are people that enjoy it. Out of this list of game modes, the only ones that are permanent are Grief and Directed Mode. The others are completely lost forever into the internet void. I do wish that some of that dev time could have been reclaimed to make the zombies maps at a higher quality instead of the end results we got. It feels like such a waste. Now, going back to round-based, we take a look at the final map in Black Ops 6 Zombies. And this one is a little different than the others.
Sam and I have unfinished business. You will need to stabilize the ether reactors.
This is how you should start a game of zombies. A big set piece, intense lighting, and the inevitable approach of the undead. This is easily the best spawn room in all of BO6 Zombies, and a marker of the quality that we can expect from the final DLC of the game. Reckoning, also known as Janus Towers, is the final map and the conclusion of our story. Our crew has chased down the SAM AI to this location with the reluctant help of Richtofen. She now possesses the Sentinel artifact and could do any number of things if left unchecked, although she claims she only wants a body to become human. Just like the other maps after Citadel, we for some inexplicable reason have no intro cutscene. It looks like the entire budget at this point might as well have gone to BO7. Functionally, the ending of Shattered Vale does introduce this map, but having some kind of new intro or a unique loading screen or something would add so much more character to Reckoning than it has, and any of the other maps, to be honest. I will say, Reckoning, off the bat, is a map that feels like it delivers and should have been the standard of quality for BO6 in terms of the Easter egg design and gameplay, but it still does lack in some areas that I wish it didn't, and believe me, we will get to that and I will not hold back my honest opinions. The spawn room, as you see here, is in the reception area of Janus Towers. After passing the metal detectors, a big explosion will go off, igniting fires and setting off the building sprinklers. I absolutely adore unique starts like this. It immediately grabs the player's attention and gets you immersed in the map. The spawn here branches out into 2 different but overlapping routes. Starting with the more interesting of the 2, we head out the left side of the reception area to quantum computing. Beyond this door, we are greeted by an ether elevator. This will transport you very fast vertically to the 2nd level of the tower, where it is corrupted by the dark ether dimension. This otherworldly fungus is grown over the quantum computer in the middle, and the room is covered by a purple hue. Everybody's favorite perk is also located here. This is the most unique looking room in the entire map. If we make our way out here to the balcony, we can find this ring looking thing that'll fling us all the way to the twin of this tower that has 2 levels we can access. This is the robot assembly area. Here, Project Janus mass produces their Klausbots, which they use to help run the facility. On the upper area of this is Double Tap, and another one of those launch rings, which takes us in a loop back to mutant experimentation. This would have been where the other ether elevator in Spawn would take us. This is more of your typical science-y facility that we've gotten accustomed to in BO6. There's test tubes containing special enemies we've seen in previous maps, like the Mangler and Toxic Zombies. There's also a PhD flopper machine and this big, eerie test tube with failed clones of Richthofen's family. He'd been trying in every way known to man to bring them back, and this is just one of those experiments. Going back to robot assembly, we can open this next elevator, which will take us to this lab area with a gigantic box in the middle. Inside is this entity contained in this metal sphere that looks suspiciously like Sam. There's a particular voice also coming from within. Inside is the Forsaken, a powerful dark ether entity that got sealed away in the map of the same name in Black Ops Cold War. The entity that the original Samantha Maxis sacrificed herself to seal away. We're finally getting some form of follow-up to this guy after getting hauled away. Humiliated and trapped, the Forsaken will get some mild amusement from our zombie-slaying antics in the room, and speak to us sometimes. But for some reason, our characters, the very same team that led the charge to seal this guy away originally, have absolutely nothing to say when coming face to face with them again. They really dropped the ball with dialogue in this game. So much potential for plot and character conversations about the stuff that's right in front of them, the events that they were directly involved with. Give us something. I also feel like I gotta mention this room and the science area are pretty boring and standard looking, and I wish that we had more creative looking areas. Moving on past the stamina up machine, we can launch back over to the other tower. Up here will be Juggernog and Richthofen's office. In the middle of this floor is a huge hole which we can actually jump all the way down. As we near the bottom of this drop, a parachute, which apparently we have, will automatically deploy and save us from any fall damage. This takes us back to mutant experimentation, and using the other big gaping hole in the floor, we can go all the way back to quantum computing and subsequently the reception area. I'm not sure why the parachute is given by default instead of something we have to acquire or craft in the map, but it's a somewhat minor complaint. Back to the director's office, we can see Richthofen's blueprints of Sam. There's also papers scattered around detailing familiar artifacts found by Samantha when she was trapped in the dark ether. On Richthofen's desk, you can open the snow globe and it reveals a button. This triggers a hidden portal which takes us to the ether reactors. This big lab area, I'm gonna say at this point, I'm very tired of the lab setting. I feel like we've had this in so many maps that it's just exhausting. Richthofen then instructs our crew to the reactors. With a simple press of the button, this impressive beam fixes itself and lights up the room. However, the process goes slightly wrong. Ether crystals now show up on the pipes, but all we have to do is just shoot them, and then the room is back to normal. Low gravity will also activate in the room, and Pack-a-Punch will float gently in the air and only occasionally teleport. Every few minutes, the low gravity will shut off, and things will return to normal. The low gravity here is very reminiscent of DE or Moon, and actually makes dealing with super sprinters on higher rounds just a little easier if you happen to be in this room. Map modifiers like this add a lot of character to zombies maps, and I wish more of them did more unique things like this. In case you were thinking of jumping into the beam, it will simply launch you to the other side of the room, or if you jump in the start of the beam, it'll turn you into a ball of energy and just float along the course. You might also notice that portals have opened up. They go all over from Pack-a-Punch to spawn, to the top floor to spawn, and vice versa. Paired with the ability to physically jump down 3 layers of floors and launch pads, traversal is very efficient and fun. It doesn't feel like a pain having to vertically get around in this map. So I think in that aspect, they really nailed the gameplay. The raw visuals of this map are also fine, I guess. There's not a lot of very truly expressive areas besides the beauty that is Spawn and quantum computing in my opinion. The rest of the map doesn't feel like anything that new, which is a shame because this is the final map in the game. Another really big part of map uniqueness is enemy variety. BO6 has struggled quite a bit with this, but upon reaching the special round in this map, players will be surprisingly delighted. On these special rounds, a red mist will settle across the towers and a beeping sound will rapidly approach your location. These mechanical men known as the Commando Klauses will hover across the ground and try to blow up in your face. They deal a huge chunk of damage, but are pretty fragile themselves. I like this enemy for 3 reasons in particular. 1, it's a challenge that doesn't overwhelm the player if you're smart about your positioning. 2, it doesn't spawn mid-round with normal zombies. And 3, it's a brand new enemy, and it fits the theme of the map. That's the best part. Brand new enemies are something that, to the detriment of BO6, have been a rare event. So this was a huge breath of fresh air. On top of the exploding Klauses, a brand new boss enemy is finally introduced to take the place of the amalgam, Uber Klaus. This bad boy is a Klaus robot in control of a powerful exosuit with a few dangerous abilities and a whole slew of insults he can throw at the player. This may initially remind you of a Panzer, and you'd be right to think this is similar, but Klaus is different enough to differentiate himself from the original Panzer Soldat. For starters, he does have a similar 3-range burst attack just like the one from DE, but this one lingers on the ground, creating a devastating area of effect. Uber Klaus is also able to consistently rocket jump towards you to close the gap, and he may follow up with a rocket-powered sucker punch if you're too close. One of the final abilities he has in this phase is to activate a shield when he's taking a ton of damage. The shield makes it incredibly hard to do meaningful damage to Klaus, so taking out his shoulder plates that are causing it are very key. If you manage to defeat him, the mech will explode. However, Klaus is not done yet. With the alarms on the mech blaring, the main Klaus will eject from the mech and continue the fight himself. He'll be hovering just like the exploding variants and continue to fire high damaging energy blasts at the player. The shields can also come back on him, but it's not quite as strong and you can just bust straight through it. The final thing that Klaus will do is a final strike where he will try to explode himself in a blaze of glory. It really doesn't live up to the original Klaus though, that's for sure. Uber Klaus really does strike fear into the player with his high health and high damage. I like it when a boss enemy has a cool design and is something that I would have to pay attention to and respect in order to survive. Ignoring, say, a Margwa or a Panzer could possibly lead to an easy death in those maps that had them. Not saying they should make every boss enemy on that level of difficulty, but I like a fair and good challenge. And I will say this a million times, I will so gladly take something new over old when it comes to zombies. The special enemies are very well designed in this map and they fit the theme spectacularly. For most of the maps in BO6, the enemy variety hasn't made any sense for the maps they feature in besides Terminus. Just zombies and robots in the overrun facility? Cool, I love that. I hope they won't shove unnecessary enemies into the map. Oh boy, I've been at this for over an hour now. I'm so sick of these guys. For the first 20 rounds in Reckoning, they are amazing, not a trace of Doppelgast. For special enemies, it's almost completely Klussies and Uberklauses. Yes, they gradually will throw vermin and parasites at you, but okay, whatever, sure. At this point, they're on every map. Maybe, just maybe, I can somehow excuse that for the 6th time. But then this guy decides to spawn in and ruin any bit of immersion I had in this brand new location. I'm just tired of Doppelgast, parasites, and vermin on every map.
It's time to stop!
Now that we're properly introduced to Reckoning, before we get to the map's Easter egg, we of course have to go over the brand new and original wonder weapon exclusive to the Reckoning, the Gorgafex. This thing in its base form isn't anything that crazy, but when obtaining one of the upgrades, it kills infinitely and is great for surviving. People are seriously sleeping on this wonder weapon. I've seen so many creators saying that this thing is useless and underpowered, but that is so far from the truth once we understand how it really works. The process for getting it is quite interesting because they tried a lot of new stuff for it. To get started, we have to head to the upper floor of the lab, which is locked. To get the combination, we have to carefully observe the computers in the lab. There are 2 computers that have static that sometimes flash a keyword. If we look to the periodic table in the tube room, we have to carefully look for an element that matches the first letter of the word. This puzzle is pretty straightforward, and with a little experimentation, players can find the code without really needing help by looking at the atomic number that's provided to you on this periodic table. This is what I was talking about with in-game solutions to the problems. If they had this on Citadel for that Raven code, it would have been a lot more fluid to complete. Once we enter the combination, the upper lab area will open up. This little room seems basic upon first glance, but inside this container is a strange, shriveled up mass. If we kill zombies in the room, vermin will start popping out of their chest. Getting those guys low health and close to this thing will absorb their bodies into the cyst. Once it's done with the vermin, you'll have to absorb some zombies as well, and then we're able to pick it up. Using the clues baked into the appearance of the cyst, we can work out that it needs to go to quantum computing. Getting near any of these ether plants, it'll start absorbing their essence. Something cool is the plants do fight back with these toxic puddles, but they're no match for the goop. After that, the cyst is fully charged, and we have to actually go to the Forsaken room to overcharge the device just like this. An Uber Klaus will spawn in, but you'll notice, if we kill him, he just keeps coming back. We have to destroy the shield generators on his shoulder and lure him onto the electrified floor panel in front of the Forsaken. Klaus will then be stunned and the Forsaken will inhabit its body. The ether elevator will be disabled and our crew now realizes they're trapped.
Once again, existence itself shall feel my pain.
This is a mid-game boss fight, something we don't actually get very often in zombies. The Uber Klaus is now covered in purple etheric energy and has the ability to call a wave of Commando Klauses mixed with normal zombies. The Forsaken is also tanky himself and does high damage, so proper preparation for the fight is absolutely necessary. Once we defeat the Forsaken, his essence will be left over and interacting will cause the cyst to absorb the Forsaken and become the Gorgafex Wonder Weapon.
Forsaken? More like Forsaken.
This gun is so nasty looking and I love it. One of the most creative guns they've added to zombies in a long while with its absolutely gross design. This fungal monstrosity is capable of dishing out single high damage blasts and a charged AoE shot that levitates zombies in a field of orange particles. Obtaining the Gorgafex is a fun process that makes the player really think about how and when to approach the Forsaken fight, and all of the steps can be found by just exploring the map. You'll hear me talk about it again, but that's one of my favorite parts of Reckoning. The Wonder Weapon and main quest all have this logic they follow, which is 100% solvable without a guide, which is exactly how I beat this map the first time. All of the puzzle pieces are in front of you, and the solution is just inches away with enough thinking and understanding, with only a couple steps following the classic Treyarch weirdness. I don't think we give enough credit to the team for things like this. Having it be possible to do an Easter egg without any guide whatsoever is one of the coolest things that you can accomplish in zombies. During BO3 and 4, it felt like nothing made sense. The way they have it laid out in front of you and you just have to put the pieces together, it is just top tier game design. We can actually go ahead and complete the entire Easter egg now with just the base Gorgafex, but if you want to use it as a weapon, its usefulness is very limited as is. It's not even possible to pack a punch until it gets one of its 2 distinct upgrades. I'll try my best to make it brief since this video has already been a complete monster to get through. Once we get the Gorgafex, we can go to the administration floor and head outside of Blanchard's office. He will introduce himself and beg us to help stop Dr. Panos, if you remember him from Liberty Falls. He is apparently on site in the quantum computing somewhere, and we can choose to either help him or Panos for their respective variants of the Wonder Weapon. If we pick up the Strauss counter in quantum computing, we've chosen to assist Dr. Panos. He tells us doing this route will unleash all of the weapon's potential. And that is true, this version is technically stronger. We follow the device's signal until the reading is really high, then shoot a charged Gorgafex out of the map to get the part. Then we grab 3 more parts scattered around the towers, then going back to Blanchard's office, we can construct a device. Activating it will begin to gas his office.
You what?
Yeah. We have to defend this thing from an onslaught of zombies and exploding Klaus bots. Blanchard will be opening his viewport if you have time to even glance at him, and he'll be begging for his life. Like, why are you doing this? What's happening? I don't know, I just built the thing. I didn't think it would gas you. When he's been fully gassed, Blanchard will come out of this room and he turn into a green ash.
Did we kill him?
I can't help but feel guilty whenever completing this. Blanchard was just trying to look out for his favorite eggheads and we betrayed him. Our characters have no idea who this guy is. They pull up to Janus Towers and decide, hey, let's build a gas chamber on the stranger's office so we can absorb his life essence into our gun, which has already absorbed a few souls at this point. That's effed, Treyarch. Like, they just gassed a stranger to death. What? The new and improved Gorgafex N is the stronger variant of the two. Using Blanchard's soul, we have unleashed the true potential of this weapon. It does increased splash damage with their main primary fire, and on charge shots does extreme damage that will kill for a long time. Zombies that are floated up will be dealt big damage from the puddle of toxic gas that spawns below them. Once you pack-a-punch it all the way, this thing will kill zombies infinitely as well. This Wonder Weapon is very satisfying to use, and the floating up effect is just really fun. More new and original Wonder Weapons that do really cool things, please. I love this thing. The other one is where we decide that gassing a stranger is wrong. After talking to Blanchard, instead of picking the Strauss counter up, we head to the red button by spawn. This will cause an overworked, underpaid Secretary Klaus to fly out and start reprogramming something. We have to defend him from a surprising amount of enemies. If we manage to complete this defense without letting Klaus die from a hostile work environment, the ether elevator will be closed down by quantum computing. And for some reason, Panos will become a ball of energy that's stuck going up and down the elevator. I don't have any idea how that happened. Now we have to glide down the elevator with a parachute and hit all the buttons to turn it back on. Panos' essence will then get sucked into zombies in the quantum computing room, and we just have to kill until the energy ball summons him. And then we suck his soul into our gun. Again, our characters don't know who these people are. This spares Blanchard and gives us the Gorgafex C containing the power of blue. While very similar to the other variant, this thing is only slightly less powerful. A charge shot, instead of leaving an acid pool, will cause zombies caught in it to explode, dealing huge damage to anything that passes by. This one is more for training zombies than it is camping. Having a wonder weapon that has 2 alternating paths is something that I don't think we've seen in zombies before ever, and is handled very well here. If you get one variant, you physically cannot get the other unless you get it from the mystery box. Story-wise, this has so many problems though. What was the point of these characters if we really think about it? Dr. Panos was this whole villain that Liberty Falls set up. He seems like he would be relatively important, all things considered, but then the story just completely forgot about him until the writers remembered he existed. So they just shoved him into Reckoning to do absolutely nothing, then die. Same for Blanchard. I feel like he should have had some kind of story relevance instead of just existing for the sole purpose of being sacrificed. Which I like that idea in concept, but it would have been more impactful if there was more build-up for both characters. And again, they don't do anything. You can remove them from the story in Reckoning and nothing changes at all. With all of that setup out of the way, it's finally time to tackle the final Easter egg quest in Black Ops 6 Zombies. What kind of lessons has Treyarch learned from all their time in making the other maps, and does this live up to expectations? For us to get started, we have a few things that can be done before even finishing the wonder weapon. In the Forsaken containment room, there's a locked door with a scanner that's DNA locked to Project Janus employees. We have to find a way inside. After opening Pack-a-Punch, a syringe will be available in Mutant Research next to the Mangler tube. A zombie corpse will then be found floating in the ether reactor or on the ground under the beam. We have to knock the body onto the floor and then use the syringe on the body to get the DNA. We then run back up and put the syringe where we got it, and the Mangler will absorb the blood and gain his consciousness. The scientist will be horrified at his new form, but Richthofen will try to coldly recruit him to assist our team. This, however, backfires as he blames Richthofen for everything that's happened. He's not wrong, by the way, and he will attack the player. During this elite Mangler encounter, it's treated as a small boss fight. The other test tubes in the room containing the toxic zombies and the Elder Disciple will burst open, adding more difficulty to this fight. The Elder Disciple, if you remember it from Shattered Veil, will summon more enemies to the field, eventually mutating them into stronger enemies, making it a priority target. The way the developers handle bringing these enemies into the map is very tasteful and makes complete sense. This is a mutant research lab in an evil science facility where they've been experimenting with the dark ether, and after this encounter, you never see another Mangler, toxic zombie, or Elder Disciple again. They didn't just add them to the map for the sake of adding them. I much prefer this than whatever they were thinking every map past Terminus. If you're going to do it, don't overdo it and make it fit the map's theme. This is done excellently here and makes for a fun fight. Defeating that scientist Mangler will give us a special mutant injection that we have to use in front of that scanner, and this feels a bit clunky and unnecessary, to be honest. I would much rather we have to scan the vial instead of this. That would feel a lot better than the awkwardness of using a mutant injection for just 5 seconds. The door opens up and a portal is revealed, hiding another room. This has the deactivated portal that'll lead us to the third tower that's been visible outside. Our goal for the quest is to turn this portal back on and confront Sam. The next thing we can do is get our friendly Klausbot up and running. This can be done at any point during the rest of what we've already covered, since the Easter egg quest is very flexible. To build this dude, we have to get his arms and legs. The legs we have to find just scattered around robot assembly, but the arms, we have to actually shoot them off of Commando Klaus's. You can only get one per round, so it may take a little while, but that's okay. It's very likely you'll get the arms naturally, which tells the player you're able to repair the Klaus in the chair. This natural form of progression is something Treyarch has done really well in Reckoning. Once we get Klaus back up and running, he still needs power, which can be achieved with a single Uber Klaus shock. Good Klaus here can start working on the computer next to his station, which will take about a round. During this round, you can do a lot more stuff assuming you took care of that Uber Klaus. There's 3 things we can do. One is to get the brain from the quantum computer. All we need to do for that is take Melee Macchiato, punch this panel, and grab this weird squishy purple brain. Then with that, we have to run all the way back to the Forsaken portal, put it in his computer before it dries out, and bam, we got the brain in there. But there's even more work to be done. The second part is to clear the crystals off of this portal. We need more power in order to do it. There's this suspicious computer that needs a code, but where do we get started? Lucky for us, there's a few leads scattered about this table in the director's office. The papers have a ton of numbers all over them. The goal for us is to use the corresponding item number in the order that they occurred. There's a lot of numbers present on the page, but eventually you'll probably reach that conclusion. This puzzle is very much again about your problem-solving skills more than it is about an arbitrary thing that requires you to look at a third-party website or a highly specific guide to complete it correctly. This is how puzzles should be done in Zombies. I really like this. Once we have that sorted out, the computer will allow us to overload the ether reactor in the basement with just a press of a button. This will spawn some ghostly vermin that we have to kill with the wonder weapon. Then we just have to grab the electric charge on the orb here with the Gorg effects and shoot the charge shot into the portal, which will clear the crystals out. The third and final thing we can do before finishing Klaus up is find a zombie head. Upon close observation of the hole to the mushroom area, you can spot a corpse below. With a little experimentation with the wonder weapon, you can knock down the head and pick it up. The head is dried up and we have to somehow restore it. Out of all the Easter egg steps so far, nothing has really been all that hidden, but this part is some of that classic Treyarch weirdness that used to define Easter eggs in the older games. We have to take a mop bucket full of water and soak the head in it. Not even kidding when I say this is the step that delayed the Easter egg hunt by a few hours the day Reckoning came out. It's genius, really. For that water in the mop bucket, we have to just find a bucket, move it under the sprinklers, and then activate either sprinkler system in order to fill it up. You just gotta throw a grenade over there and it'll pop out. With that head nice and wet, it comes back to life and is hungry for blood. So, in classic Soulbox-like fashion, we've got to let it consume the undead. But there's a few other parts that really enhance the step that we should take some time to appreciate. For starters, you can carry the head while feeding it souls, or leave it on the ground and just feed it there. Which is a nice touch in case you aren't in a good spot, but also it punishes you for holding the head for too long as well. If we don't drop it in time, some kind of shadowy ghostly creature will try to eat our soul as it slowly approaches from the beyond. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but the effect is really well done and does add a little bit of risk when mixed with other zombies. Just dropping the head will cause it to go away for a short while, but seeing this happen for the first time without knowing what was going on was really awesome. With the head fully charged with souls, we can place it in the portal and it'll cause fungus to spawn all over it. I know it'll look like we're done and we can jump in the portal, but yeah, don't do it yet. You'll probably die. Already at this point, there's a lot of stuff going on in the map. We have the wonder weapon, the optional upgrade quest, Klaus, the brain, DNA scanner, a puzzle with these paper codes, and the zombie head. And impressively, there's still more to do. For the last stretch, we have to pick up Klaus from daycare and do a special SAM trial, which is usually a lockdown under the Forsaken Chamber or a kill trial. This will be quite difficult given the zombie spawns and the high kill counts you need, but if you're able to complete it, Klaus will finally be ready for his 9 to 5 at the Temu factory. He'll open up this little ball here, which fits suspiciously nice into these holes. Going back out there will be these objects glowing with purple energy and sass. They'll slap you for getting too close and run away. We gotta trap them like Pokemon in the balls. We have to get 4. Luckily, there's more objects than you need, so finding them shouldn't be an issue in the slightest. Slamming those balls back into portal room, and we finally reach the last step before we confront Sam at the Sentinel artifact. Putting those balls in place will start a lockdown where we have to stop the portal from overloading. Zombies will flood out of the gate and levers will go down as time passes. All we gotta do is survive and stop those levers from deactivating for too long. A nice little event before the finale, which we have finally reached. If you're watching at this point in the video, leave a like and a comment for me down below. It would really mean a lot to me, and I want to see all of your hot takes regarding BO6 Zombies. Without further ado, we go into the portal.
I recall telling you to make your way to the mutant research lab.
Alright, we forgot to grab this at the start of the game. Okay, finally, it is time. With the DNA of Richthofen's family in one hand and Sam begging for us to help her in the other, players are faced with a decision for the first time in a very, very long time. You have to choose to either side with Sam or side with our dear pal Eddie. Who lives and who dies is up to you. Who gets their happy ending? While the build-up to this moment could have been a lot stronger story-wise, this action has a lot of meaningful consequences to the gameplay. Depending who you side with, you'll have to fight the other. Side with Sam, and you have to fight Richthofen and all his robots. Side with Richthofen, and you have to fight Sam and all of her zombie mutations. I couldn't think of a more fitting choice for the conclusion of BO6 Zombies than these two as the final bosses. This is also the first map in Zombies history to have 2 separate final bosses for the ending. Incredible that Reckoning was a lot of firsts for the series, although one can argue too little too late. I'm going to try to be brief about the bosses since there's 2 to get through. The beginning sequence is also the same for both of them. We'll start with the Sam boss fight. Putting Richtofen's family in the vial at the Sentinel artifact will cause Sam to lash out at our crew, sending zombies and all sorts of things our way as we ride up the elevator. There's 2 stops on the way. On the first floor, we have to fill soul jars and charge the elevator, then we'll ascend even further. On the second floor, we have to destroy the ether crystals disrupting the power flow. These floors also give a last-minute shot at perks and other upgrades in case somehow you weren't fully prepared going into this. And we finally ascend to the top of Janus Towers, where Sam herself will float in and face us in the sunset.
Edward tried to break you, and now I am going to finish the job.
This fight is difficult, but not nearly as hard as Richtofen. She's got a lot of attacks like lasers and bombs, and also SAM trials that give you debuffs if you fail. This whole battle is about endurance and taking advantage of her weak spots after laser attacks. It quite literally will take everything you've got to win if you play it the normal way. A very difficult but fair fight for the finale, all things considered. Taking her down will conclude this side of the story. Richtofen's family is brought back from the dead and reunited with him as they look off into the sunset. A little cliche, but I'll let it slide. Meanwhile, our crew mysteriously disappears from the Sentinel artifact, absorbing them. We'll get back to them after a quick look at Richtofen's fight because there's a lot of things to say about the ending. For the other route where we help Sam, we face off against Klausbots, Uberklauses, and Richtofen himself, but as Uber Richtofen.
I was planning to attend a family reunion, but since that's been cancelled, I'll just kill you instead.
Yes, this is legit the fight. He's a giant Uberklaus, while other Ubers try to kill you. But the second phase is where it gets really interesting. He'll disengage from the bot and fly around on a jetpack while armed with the Wunderwaffe. Oh, and he can basically one-shot you and has missiles, bombs, and all other sorts of things. This fight is the definition of unfair. If you thought Sam was hard, you're in for something completely else. Richtofen is probably the most unforgiving and difficult boss in Zombies history. It makes sense given who he is, but from a gameplay perspective, this kind of sucks. The only thing you can do is spam Ether Shroud and smoke grenades, and that makes the fight totally different. But without those things, good luck, especially if you're a solo or a duo player, because you'll really need it. There was a lot of potential for this part of the fight, but the balance just makes it not very fun without a full squad. If you by some miracle are able to defeat Richtofen, the Sam AI will get a real body and look off into the sunset. I want to mention this real quick before talking about the ending. The dual boss fights at the end are really cool, but honestly, the arena is very boring and uninspired. It looked like they were running out of time because BO7 was right around the corner. Still, props to the team for doing things that hadn't been done before. It was a fun ride. I'll just let the end cutscene play for itself.
Welcome to the party.
Your eyes are not deceiving you. The cutscene is short and our BO6 crew doesn't even really say a word. And we're greeted by yet again a third iteration of the same characters we've seen since the series began. A crew of characters that we thought were gone for good after BO4's ending. A crew that sacrificed themselves for the greater good of the universe, only to be brought back all of a sudden and out of nowhere. Dempsey, Nikolai, Takeo, and Richtofen are all back. Again. I thought it was over for them. I mean, we still had Richtofen in the story, but there's so much room for our new crew to grow as characters. But the writers really dropped the ball when it came to them in this game. There's so much missed opportunity from lack of cutscenes to unique in-game dialogue for them that I fear it's going to hurt the potential growth that this crew has. They just need more material to work with. I'm not very happy about them playing it safe and bringing these characters back for the 100th time. I just really hope our BO6 crew gets some justice in BO7. They got screwed over so bad with the voice actor strikes and the lack of cutscenes and whatever was going on at Treyarch. I gotta say, Reckoning did impress me in terms of its gameplay. I had really thought that they'd lost their touch with most of the Easter eggs in BO6 being very simple and very easy. While they would be fun the first time over, it's like we've been playing on easy mode the whole time. Reckoning's Easter egg, in a way, is a return to form for what the standard used to be, but with a lot less nonsense than veteran players are used to. It's like a perfect blend of old and new Treyarch making something incredible and, more importantly, fun. One last honorable mention is all of the side Easter eggs on this map are very useful. From the shooting gallery that can reward you with free weapon upgrades to a lot of free points from Mr. Peak skydiving and the paintings, a lot of the stuff is worth doing in every game and none of it is that difficult. I love side Easter eggs that feel like they have purpose. There's so many elements of Reckoning that work so incredibly well together. The verticality and movement feels just fantastic, and the Klauses feel fun to fight, and the Wonder Weapon is just amazing. This map does fall short with some of the reused enemies and the lacking visual aesthetic in some of the map, but I would say Reckoning's gameplay does far more than enough to justify this map being in the A tier. BO6 Zombies has been a very complicated game for me, and I don't think I have one word that can accurately describe the mixed feelings I've had. On one hand, there's a lot of little things that I really appreciate with BO6, but it seems as if they were lacking in either time or a cohesive vision to tie it together properly. I think the base gameplay feels amazing, but there's a lot of elements that make it feel so much worse than it should. The insane damage scaling in higher rounds, mixed with a terrible point system, just feels straight up bad to play. The art direction in many of the maps is painfully boring, as well as reused and lazy enemy types. Reused wonder weapons, lackluster story, clunky tactical sprint, and the pointless crossover side modes that were only there for a week or two should have gone to map development instead. Lack of innovation and ambition was the fatal sin of Black Ops 6 Zombies. When they were able to create brand new enemies like the Klaus units in the Doppelgast and Amalgam, I feel like design-wise they've been successful, but the amount of enemies they've reused in each map left a lot to be desired and eroded the uniqueness that each enemy had originally. It went from excitement seeing a brand new enemy type to annoyance as they kept showing up map after map. Plus, they spam you with special enemies as the rounds get higher in every map. They just spawn way too much. There's also a lack of incentive to play any particular maps because all of the gameplay is exactly the same in every map. Terminus is more or less the only truly innovative map in here due to the boats and the exploration elements, but the rest of the year played it way too safe and didn't truly do anything groundbreaking. Even Reckoning, a map that I truly do enjoy, has a lot of environmental shortcomings and suffers from lack of unique defining features besides parachuting. And in terms of unique equipment, the incantations were the closest we've gotten. I didn't talk about it, but the Ether Blade in Reckoning, which absolutely nobody has played with because you have to grind so much XP to unlock a particular field upgrade to get to it. I can't even properly praise the wonder weapons in this game because most of it was reused from old maps. It's frustrating because all of the original stuff they did was really awesome. The swords, Beam Smasher, and Gorg effects were all cool. More of that would have gone such a long way for BO6. I think field upgrades also did so much to ruin map uniqueness, and to be honest, I'm not excited to have them back in BO7. Having a specialist weapon specific to each map in BO3 was absolutely peak, and a feature that I'm sure is never going to see the light of day at this rate. After playing the Black Ops 7 beta and hearing all the stuff that they're going to be adding in, I find myself skeptical but slightly optimistic towards them refreshing the mode. Even the small sliver of the launch map that we got to explore in Vandor Farm had so much more atmosphere than anything we've seen in BO6. This looked like Zombies again from the vibes once you turned off half of the HUD. Which is crazy we're still having this issue. Yes, the gameplay was largely untouched compared to BO6, but realistically, it's going to be very different in the main release with the heavily speculated cursed mode bringing back more classic mechanics, in theory. If you liked BO6 gameplay-wise but want a better map selection, Black Ops 7 looks like it might deliver in that sense, at least initially. I had a lot of fun with Van Doren Farm, even though it's such a simple experience. Playing Zombies again with the boys and doing really stupid things is some of the most fun I think that you can have with this mode. Monkey bombs in.
All right, I'm in position.
Go get him! Right, no!
Watch me! Damn it!
Also, I totally won the Van Doren Farm annual belly flopping contest.
Holy shit!
Incoming bear.
I really like how they heavily reduced the special enemy spam, and Ashes of the Damned looks so promising conceptually. Expanding on further concepts that Terminus introduced with an original wonder weapon looks like a good time. I'm hoping that Black Ops 7 is going to be more unique on a map-to-map basis to bring back the old magic, where we had something to really look forward to in each map because they were going to try something brand new. And I so badly hope that Cursed Mode is everything that it's been hyped up to be. But with anything COD related, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy journey. Black Ops 6 has been a ride to say the least. If you want to learn more about how exactly we got here, check out this video on screen right now where I break down the evolution of zombie mechanics since Fortnite started influencing the mode.